Harbinger, support Harbinger when that drops, and when unironically the legendary food is actually coming.
What is it? What would that even be? Okay,
it goes in the armry, and you can just use it over and over again.
What?
You don't have to continue to craft.
That would destroy the economy.
It's fine if you don't believe me. It's fine. I'm gonna expose it and I'm gonna make a video about it. Well, the bots are gone, so now there's an economy and people can actually make money off of stuff like the onion farm. Like, you should prove it's like 60 gold for an entire bank tab full of onions. Look at that website that I linked. I'll just link it again. I'll link it again. Look at this. Look at the supply and demand curves on that, and look at the onion peak. The onion peak, like ages ago, were like into the 5 silver. If you go back to all time.
I feel like I'm being pitched an obscure cryptocurrency.
That's right. The best. Now that, my friends,
how did that even
is an
begin?
Introduction. I started it. Are you saying that? It was me. I did it.
Didn't I come into the chat one time and I was like, why no Goose Jam? And then you were like, oh, Goose Jam is a thing, and you enabled it, and then you started this the Goose is Loose.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I look at that emote and go, ooh, yeah, that's a good one, That's a good emote right there. I mean, look at him go.
It's vibing.
It's like, ooh, oh, it's the neck. It's all in the neck right there. And that's yeah, very flexible neck. Do you have a neck that long, Sneb? Are you capable of
extending yourself to that keep it
degree?
I keep it hidden to not intimidate others.
That's understandable. Yeah, that would be really good for getting into pugs, right? Like getting into raid pugs. You just flex your long, powerful neck. And they've got pretty scary teeth too. Open the mouth and then ugh, full of goose teeth. Anyway, so it's tea time. And we're not going to talk about Guild Wars 2. Guys, we don't want to get into the news here. It was all good. It was all good news. It was a great stream on Friday. Everything went well. Oh, the community was so hyped. Everyone was going crazy, right? It was so hyped. Arborstone, revitalization. The gameplay is confirmed. Ender Dragons, they showed off a giant crab, a giant snail. I mean, it really was a stream completely off the chain. It was incredible. I loved it, right? It really, really was. My stream was excited. I'm sure the YouTube will be excited as well. The Reddit was happy about this, right? Okay, there wasn't a giant civil war about the stream or anything like that. Nope, didn't happen. But anyway, we're not going to talk about any of that today because this is no longer a Guild Wars 2 podcast. This is actually a new show that I've come up with, and it will simply be me, Sneb, and Brazil discussing our experiences with the NA Raid LFG. So buckle up for that. Get a nice cozy cup of tea, maybe a hot chocolate or something like that, and we're going to go through all of that today, okay? Of course, not being entirely serious right there, we are going to talk about the latest news in Guild Wars 2, don't worry about that. Legendary weapons, Arborstone revitalization, and then maybe, if you're very lucky, we'll tell you some stories at the end. But welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you very much to Sneb and Brazil for joining me here. Welcome, gentlemen, and of course, let's start off on our first topic, and I kind of want to open the floor because this, I'm in a little bit of hot water for this take. I've been doing a bit of debate in my YouTube comment section about this, actually, about the legendary weapons. Now, I'll put my position out there, okay? And I almost want to give it to Brazil here because Brazil is our resident TeaTime legendary item expert, okay? You'll probably know him for his Legendary Armor Series Part 4 series. Very exciting stuff. But I actually think that they really redeemed and kind of saved the Gen 3 legendaries because what's happening now is that there's going to be a base Aurene themed one with rainbows and stuff, and then all the other dragons will have their own, right? So all the other dragons, there'll be like a Mordramoth one, a Krakatorit one, a Zaitan one, right? A Jormag one, Primordus one, and they'll all have custom effects, right? Different particle effects, draw effect, finisher effect, right? All that kind of crazy stuff, right? Loads of big energy going on there, which I think I was expecting that to be a tough selling point, that it was going to feel a little bit lame, fell a little bit flat, but I like the compromise there. But I'm going to shut up. I'm going to hand it to Brazil. Okay, tell us about what's the matter with legendary weapons.
Well, whenever they initially announced that Gen 3 legendaries were all going to be Aurene themed, I immediately thought, okay, this is going to be shit. And that was my entire thought on it, and I moved on and kind of forgot about it. And then they have the stream where they're like, hey, here are the Aurene legendaries. Actually, the effects are kind of cool. Like, they're footfalls, but they're finisher effects. I don't think there are finisher effects on any of the other ones. I could be mistaken. but whenever you kill a mob, it's like rainbows fly out of the sky. It's like a rail gun. Yeah, and it's like, oh shit, this is cool. And then they say, yeah, we're going to basically give you the precursor free for doing story achievements. And then it's like, okay, this is really good. That's awesome. Then they say, and the legendaries are going to be tradable. You can sell them on the trading post. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, I can actually get these because there's no way I'm doing story achievements for them. That will not happen. I'm not going to get any Gen 3 because I will not do story achievements. But then they say, you know, you can trade them. So I'm like, shit, I'll just get my credit card out and I'll just buy them all. Perfect. And then they say they're going to be themed after all the dragons and you can switch them up. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is really good. And they actually, the art styles and the variation between all of them, the like Zaitan weapon, like the greatsword has teeth on the blade, and the Mordremoth one has like vines around it that glow and like this plant thing that comes off the hilt. And you're like, oh shit, this is awesome. And I can get the Zaitan ones and I can just speedrun a Raw all day and I can be perfectly happy. And it's like, I actually think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be really cool. I think the execution is perfect. It made Inks really upset that they're tradable, but I think making them tradable is absolutely perfect because now people like me will buy gems to just buy them off the TP and they're going to generate a lot of revenue. And I think it's going to be awesome.
The only argument against not making them untradeable is that it like lessens the prestige, which I understand and somewhat agree with.
That's fake.
Like, well, no, that's people's argument. So I feel like I kind of get that. However, you can just buy the materials for the Gen 2s, right? Like, is it really? I don't view it as that big of an issue anymore. I actually think that making them tradable is an excellent thing because it gives the people that are like really into the economy something to do. And like you said, it will make ArenaNet more money because people will just straight up buy gems and then buy the things. And then like it's just something else to do, right? I like if you're like, oh, I want to make some money, I'm gonna go make a legendary and sell it. Like people actually like doing that. There are people that love doing map completion and then selling their gift of masteries and stuff. I legit think that it just adds more content to the game.
I agree.
Yeah, there's already no prestige in Guild Wars 2 at all, which is actually this is an interesting thing because everyone that has Voice of the Void equipped bought Doom CM. Every single person that has it. No one unironically reps that did the fight. The people that are actually good at the game don't even use titles. They don't rep a guild and they don't use titles. They just like hide themselves as a brand new player and then they go into a pug raid and they do 10k DPS more than everybody else. Like that's actually what happens. There is no prestige in this game because you can just buy everything.
You can even buy the monthly AT.
You can buy the monthly AT. Yeah, you can buy gizmos. You can. Me as the god tier fly hacking warrior genius exposed all of this. You can go buy the unique PvP gizmos for like $600 on the black market. You can buy legendaries for like here. You buy the ultimate edition of Guild Wars 2, like Into Dragons. You get 4,000 gems with it, and then you think, oh shit, it's just another $50, and I have a free legendary here. Not free because you have to buy it, but yeah, and the Gen 2 legendaries, it's a combination of just buying materials with the just with gems. You convert it and buy the materials, and then doing a bunch of event chains that are broken that you have to wait hours for, or waiting for things to fail on purpose and getting griefed by people that are actually playing the game correctly. You have to fail events to get some reward for it, and people just come along and they complete the event because they're playing the game. And it's just the Gen 2s, the execution is just ass piss. It's terrible. And so making them tradable is the best of all worlds, all conceivable universes that are parallel, because people can buy them if they want to get it into the armory. People can just play the game and unlock them and think they're cool and whatever. Like it's easy. It's good.
I think they've been very clever about this because I do like the collections, actually. I do agree that the weapons were a bit... because I actually made a lot of them recently. I made Astralaria, Hope, right? And a third one as well. Yeah, I've done Chugan Chompor as well. So I've done like all of the collection ones, more or less, except Nevermore. And what I did notice is that they are there's a lot of overlap too, right? You know, I found myself doing the same event twice at different stage of the collection, right? For each of the legendaries. It was like, okay, right, yeah. They obviously didn't quite have enough time to give each of these their proper fleshed out, well-designed collection storyline. Chuka and Chompon is the exception, actually. I think that one's really well done. Maybe Nevermore is. I haven't done it. Someone can comment on that for sure. But yeah, I actually do like the collections. However, there's a little insight here as well that I think ArenaNet's kind of got the best of both worlds here with this, in a lot of ways with this set. But they have also, they've also pointed out that to unlock the different appearances, there's going to be some kind of quest, right, to do it. I think they kind of implied this. You're going to have to do something to go and unlock them. You're going to have to, you know, go out and do some stuff to infuse the dragon magic into the basic Aurene set there as well. So I think that's actually pretty cool. So in other words, you can still buy the legendary weapons, so you have that economic focus. And I actually, the point you talked about there about how it gives players an incentive to make them and then sell them, even if they don't want it, or even if they already have a legendary unlocked of that type. I think that's actually a really key point. That's really worth hitting on really hard, because a really important part of Ender Dragon is you want to keep the maps relevant, right? You want to keep these events important so that players continue to do them. And if legendaries are profitable to craft, that's a really important part of, you know, the way the economy works and the way the map works and the gameplay works. So that makes a lot of sense. And hey, as you say, it does also generate some money, right? You know, some income there, because you can just direct swipe these things, which is obviously going to make them a lot more accessible. But also, I think you're going to get more value out of them as well, right? Because the Gen 2s, yeah, they have really cool quests, but most people can't be asked to do it, right? Because, yeah, there are issues like them sometimes being a bit buggy, being a little bit weird. And this led to a much lower uptake on a lot of them. So being able to instantly buy them just makes them more accessible. It means that you can get them any way you want, right? If you want to grind fractals every day until you can buy a legendary, great, you can do that now. You can't really do that for a Gen 2 legendary, because even if you just buy all the materials for the ones that don't have collections, well, you still have to do the map completion. You still have to actually craft them and sit at the stupid crafting area for like 10 years while you wait for all your mithril to turn into ingots, right? So yeah, I think that the design approach they've taken with these legendary weapons in Gen 3 is actually very intelligent. I think it hits everything. You're going to have some kind of, there's going to be an element of prestige to unlocking the different skin variants, presumably, right? Because you're going to have to do something to unlock that skin, which might have a collection attached to it, maybe something else. But the actual base legendary itself, which is where all the gold investment is, can simply be purchased using gems, using gold from farming or whatever, right? Yeah. I guess the only thing is that it means that you're going to be able to get all of them on launch very quickly if you have gold, because they're going to, realistically, they actually said that they're going to be in the same range as current legendaries in terms of their valuation. So if you actually have, let's say, 20k, 30k gold, you can buy a huge amount of them essentially on the launch of the game, because yeah, they'll be expensive on launch, but you'll still be able to like instantly get them and make your own too. So that's something, I guess. But yeah, I really like it overall. I think they've done a very good job with designing this. It's a good compromise with the variants and of course the acquisition method.
Yeah, when the legendaries were first announced, I looked at I think everyone kind of did this. I was like, really? They all have the same theme? Because one of the reasons I really like legendaries, they're kind of their own unique weapon, right? There's some kind of novelty about them. Even the ones that aren't as popular, right? You've got the Dreamer with the unicorn neighing or whatever. And you've got Quip with like the popping confetti. But then you've got things like Bolt with the electricity. Like I like that. I thought that was really cool. So when they all looked the same, I was a little bit disappointed, but this has really made it up for me. Now I'm like, oh yeah, these legendaries are just a little bit different, but they're really cool, because it's kind of like having like 5 or 6 sets of legendaries now. They're going to be a little bit more unique, and now having those skins represents something. It represents that you've actually gone and done. So that maybe there is a little bit of prestige to that, like you suggested. So and it keeps the maps relevant, which is really important. So I'm quite happy with it. I think the legendaries are probably one of the best things that came out of that whole showcase or whatever. I thought that was really, really well done. Whoever came up with that idea, really smart. And shout out to Chelsea, who's the dev that designs a lot of those legendaries. I think they look really, really good.
Yeah. They certainly look good in the concept. The only thing that I wish that could have happened there, that could have gone a bit better, is if they'd actually had one of the variants prepared, which unfortunately they didn't, right? They only had the base ones to show off, and it looks like the other ones are going to be developed after release. Look, please please make sure they come out on schedule. Now, I'm sure they have a plan, and I imagine why they went for this option was to make sure that they did come out on time. But one of the reasons why I think this is such a good approach compared to Gen 2, because yeah, it's really cool that all the Gen 2 ones were really radically different with unique stuff going on there. But team, before you start complaining that these, say, wow, the Gen 2 is better, just bear in mind you had to wait nearly 4 years, okay, to get the Greatsword. Let me just point that out real quick, okay? The legendaries were supposed to come out with Heart of Thorns, were then released after. Wait, it was like towards the end of season 4, right? I think was when the final legendary came out. Like Exordium was like really, really late into that. Yeah, it was brutal, right? This was insane. Like with this, we should have a full set of legendaries with 5 extra sets of variants within 1 season of Living World, which is insane compared to what we have, right? And yeah, people are going to say, oh, it's a Black Lion skin. But guys, come on. We all know that there's a lot of Black Lion skins that are kind of approaching legendaries anyway. And I think they went really good faith here, like adding that finisher effect, like Brazil pointed out, like kind of adding a little bit extra to this to, in a way, make up perhaps for not being quite as special in terms of the model and some of the other kind of like gizmos and, doodads like the snake, right, or the book from Ipos, right, or whatever. So they've given it a little bit of extra flair. I think that there's a lot of flexibility with the way you can make your character look now, and hopefully we can then go into another set of legendary weapons in the future too. I think they're a big draw for players in the game. People love legendary weapons. They love that kind of aspirational, massive cosmetic reward there to show off. So yeah, I think this is a very, very strong approach.
It's good. And one of the things that I hope too is that it actually takes people back into dungeons, because if you're making a Zaitan legendary, it would be silly not to require Ara tokens for that. If you're making a Primordius one, it would be really silly not to require like the Sorrow's Embrace tokens. Same thing with the Mordremoth one, like Twilight Arbor. Go in Twilight Arbor and learn about the Sylvari and get the Twilight Arbor tokens. Easy. Like that would be super easy to do. You could do all of them with dungeon tokens, I think. It would take people back in, revive them a little bit, and then you could, I don't know, make them and sell them on the trading post so you don't have to do dungeons. It'd be cool. It'd be really cool.
Do that.
Well, that's okay, Sneb. You can be wrong.
I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll try to get people to play the new content. Just like Gen 2s don't go back to dungeons for any reason. Even though Shurer, like...
Yeah, Ara, easy. I really want that hammer too.
Yeah, I have the hammer and I didn't go into Ara to get it. So I don't think they're going to do that. But I think that at least the Gen 1s still make you go back to do the dungeons a little bit, but I would be very curious. Like I just can't see them doing that. It would take away from the new X-Pack,
Well, wouldn't it make sense for that though? Because you're kind of going back to, empower the weapon with an old foe. Because, Zaitan, that guy got killed in the core game. Spoiler alert. Kralgatoric, dead. Jormag and Primordius just kissed each other and exploded. So wouldn't it kind of make sense that you'd go back a little bit to some of the old content to revisit that? And hey, I mean, you get value out of that old content. It keeps it relevant. And if it was that, you have to go and do Ara to get your Zaitan legendary, then, all of a sudden, Ara is relevant again. People are going to be looking up those Lupercus solos. That's that juicy YouTube content right there.
My compromise, I think it'd be cool if you took the legendary into those dungeons and there's like some hidden lore or like some kind of Easter egg of some kind. But I really don't think they're going to make you use tokens from dungeons to get the new legendaries. That just wouldn't make sense to me because, it makes sense from like a lore perspective, but from like a business perspective, getting people to go back to the core game when you're trying to like funnel people into this new content, I don't know. I just can't really see it. Mostly because dungeons have just been not untouched for so long. Like
that is not true.
Is it though? I mean,
when was true. We need to get Grimjack on the scene here to talk about all the little secret hidden tweaks that have happened in dungeons. Like there have been some weird things going on.
Okay, well maybe there's this, but does the public really know about that? Are they marketing that? Are they trying to funnel people back into dungeons? I don't think so, right? If they were, then it would make more sense.
Maybe they're updating the framework here so they can go back and do a couple of tweaks and then get them in a state that is good to go. I don't know. Maybe.
What if they add a fishing hole into every dungeon?
Well, there's water in dungeons, so why wouldn't you be able to fish? There's plenty of water sources in dungeons.
They add a fishing hole inside every dungeon, like after the end boss, and you have to go there and get the fish. There you go. That would make sense.
I don't actually think that this is this is not copium, because what's one of the things that we always complain about? The new player experience, right? Like the fact that the game is really weird and isn't super streamlined in the way you can approach it, like from a new player standpoint. Like, what if they actually did try to make dungeons more relevant again as part of the new player experience? Because, you know, the story mode stuff, it was really hard on launch because, you know, the game was like less power crept and no one knew what the hell was going on. And some of the dungeons will certainly the explorable modes will definitely trip people up. Like even now, for sure, there's some weird mechanics in these that will bamboozle people, but the story modes aren't too bad. Do you think they would ever actually try and bring dungeons back kind of in tandem with some of the stuff? Because they could streamline the new player experience by bringing dungeons into a little bit more, like maybe even making them mandatory in the story. This is actually one of my really big pet peeves. I think the dungeons should be mandatory in the story, simply because if you don't play through them, you lose an insane amount of context about Destiny's Edge when you play through the. Like we're going deja vu mode today, guys. Okay, let's go. So would it kind of make sense if they did this? Like this would be a really good opportunity or a good excuse to actually tune this up again and have a look at this old content, not make more. Right? There's not going to be any more dungeons. Okay, look. Okay, the person who wrote that code, probably dead at this point, right? Like buried under the weight of 1,000 bugs, but fixing some of them or actually making them more relevant. Because again, look, it's about language. It's about communication. What do people think of when they think of MMOs? They're thinking about dungeons. They're thinking about raids, right? Like, so when they see dungeon, people go for them. And by the way, people actually play them, right? If you make an LFG for dungeons, they actually will fill and you will get a group. Like people will play because that's what people are looking for, right? People are looking for that experience. So I think Brazil's kind of onto something here. I think he's wrinkly, very wrinkly.
There's don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. Dungeons are incredibly buggy in some scenarios. Some cases they're fine, but there's a lot of weird things you can do in dungeons to make them easier. And I think they have a lot of work ahead of them. I could talk about this for ages, and it's kind of pointless too. But seriously, like, if they actually just surprise, like, unleashed like dungeon updates and rework some of the stuff and fix some stuff and buff some of the bosses, because seriously, the mobs in dungeons are hard to deal with. The bosses in dungeons, if you go in and don't have boons and DPS, they will hard farm you. They are ruthless. Good luck dealing with dungeon bosses if you don't know what to do. And here's the thing, Sneb and I talked about this a little bit last night, just hanging out in his Discord, but dungeon bosses are unpredictable. They have cooldowns and they just do stuff whenever they feel like it. There's a little bit of a pattern to what they do. You can predict stuff, and sometimes they start with the same openers, but then as the fight goes on, they're like, I'm actually going to do this skill right now. Actually, I see this person in the back of the room that's not stacked. I'm going to pull them into the crowd and then do a big CC or shoot a one shot at them. It's really interesting. There are a lot of unique mechanics too. A lot of the bosses there's a boss in Honor of the Waves that turns into a wolf, and it has a unique fear mechanic where you cower in place and you don't run away. Like, it fears you and it forces you into this cower animation, and then it can just come over and one-shot you with a swipe attack. There's literally like unique stuff, unique buffs and debuffs that happen in dungeons. It's crazy. Go try to solo the cave troll in Ascalonian Catacombs. You're going to get farmed. You're going to get hard farmed. There's so much potential there that they could work with and that people just don't know about. The people that were really good at raids on launch were good at raids on launch because they did dungeons, because they soloed stuff, because they speedrun stuff and they understood the mechanics of the game. Dungeons make you understand the fundamentals of combat, the fundamentals of boons, timing, when to do stuff. They get you used to your class in ways that raids will never prepare you for. You never have to stack stealth on 5 people and run through a chain of mobs that will farm you if they see you in raids. There's never anything like that. So if you play a thief, you can, if you only raid and play thief, you can go the entire existence of your gaming career in Guild Wars 2 without ever equipping Shadow Refuge. That's crazy to think about. In dungeons, you always have that skill on your bar, because if you don't, your entire group's going to get hard farmed trying to run through trash. And if you try to fight it, it's going to farm you. So you just stealth past it and go. It's crazy. There's all this content in the game that they're just not making use of, and players would actually love, and it would actually challenge players. They could just buff the HP, and all the mechanics are already there, fix some of the bugs. Easy. I'd love that. It would be so good.
And that's how you get your new legendary weapon.
Yeah. They should do it. They should. Boom. They should absolutely do it.
In order to get the Zaitan legendaries, you have to solo Lupicus.
They updated Lupicus, like, it's been a decent amount of time ago, but they updated it to where it's a lot harder to solo now, and if you don't have projectile negation, Lupicus will farm you. He does things that are different now. It's, and like, what the fuck is a Lupicus? Like, seriously? Like, they could expand on the lore on that, because there's one of them in the game. It does all this unique, crazy stuff. It hard farms noobs. They could totally expand on that too. You have to go and study about Lupicus in order to unlock the Ara greatswords. Why? It'd be so cool. It'd be so cool.
It's Lupicus teeth on the blade. That's what it is. Very small ones. Well, that was an interesting segue there into dungeons. Okay, yeah. We've delved deeper into the dungeons there for sure. But do we want to wrap things up on legendaries? I think we kind of covered the broad bases.
I don't think there's really too much to say. I mean, other than the overview is that, hey, what they just showed is actually really cool, and I'm excited to see what like the little quest lines are for all the little variations.
Yeah. I guess the one thing I think it is worth talking about the criticism. The criticism is that people feel it's a little bit lower effort. I guess I think that's negated by all the different variants. Well, there's a lot of different variants. I mean, that's what people say. I'm just saying what people say.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily agree.
I thought that too to begin with, but now that they're the variants, I go, oh, okay. Well, that's this is just different. I actually think it's probably pretty similar in effort to make all those variants. What do I know?
Well, indeed, what do we know? But I guess the final question is, I think this is the important part, is when do you think we'll see another set after this? When's Gen 4 coming out? Because in my mind, one of the really big reasons why ArenaNet would take this approach, a slightly more streamlined approach, is so they can keep doing this. Is so they can keep making more sets afterwards in a relatively quick time. So let's suppose that all of the Aurene stuff is released through Living Story Season 6, right? Whatever that's going to be after the Expo, right? That's going to take what? A year and a half? Like a year and a half? So do we see another legendary set after that? Is there going to be another expansion after that? Do we see another set with, the next expansion? Or is this kind of like, you'll get it when you get it kind of thing? Or maybe they'll keep this with expansions. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's hard to say. It kind of depends what they do with the story, right? Because the legendaries are just built around the lore and the story. So maybe there's some new foe that you like capture their essence, or I don't know. Like they could do anything with it. The question is it worth it? Like, would they bother making another skin of that, or are they going to make like a whole new legendary set with 5 new skins again? I'm guessing this is a bit of an experiment for them, because this is different than the other 2 iterations of legendaries. So if it pans out, people like it, the quest lines are good, maybe they'll consider doing it. Maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's 6 months, who knows? I actually just want the Aqua Breather. I can't stand not having the legendary Aqua Breather. Look, I've made some strategic investments. Just gambling on the fact that someday they'll make the legendary Aqua Breathers, that I could finally be complete. But I would hope that would come out before.
Yeah. I think they will.
I have a
no
stockpile
reason.
of like 1 million onions, and I'm just ready to go. Like,
ready to make them into a legendary. I imagine if there actually is an item that costs a huge amount of onions to make in the expert. They just drop it like,
that's
you're gonna
actually
need big onions.
That's been leaked, actually.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna have a video about this. Coming up. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's actually legendary food coming, and it hard leaked in the API for like a day, like icons and everything. It's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna make a video on it and expose it all. It's gonna be nuts. You wanna buy onions right now, and I'm not even kidding.
Have you ever seen those videos where they have what are they even called? Like it's gonna bother me now. They have those pressure things that just squish stuff. You know, like what are they called? I don't know. I can't remember what they're called, but they have these there's all these videos on social media, on YouTube and stuff, where there's like this press thing, hydraulic press. There you go. The chat saved me. So they have these hydraulic, like imagine if you just have to take like 1 million onions and you hydraulic press them so the pressure like turns them into like a diamond aqua breather, but it still smells like onions. Anyway, let's move on for that.
So while you're waiting for Brazil's like pump and dump scheme on onions to come out there, like combined with Nike. Right.
It's not a go look at the Ascended food, go look at Rare Veggie pizzas, go look at all this stuff. They use the meta foods use onions in the recipe.
Wait, really?
This is not a scam. This is not a troll. Onions are unironically used in recipes for the Ascended Condi food, for Rare Veggie pizzas, like all that shit. Like, it's actually real.
I'm looking it up now. I'm looking at Rare Veggie Pizza.
I'm looking up onions right now.
Veggie pizza uses the veggie pizza, and the veggie pizza uses onions.
It doesn't. It uses shallots. Okay, it does not use onions.
No, the veggie pizza. You use the veggie pizza for the Rare Veggie pizza, right?
Well, you use fancy veggie pizza, like super veggie pizza, but there's no onion.
Look at veggie pizza, the regular veggie pizza. It uses onions. I'm not joking.
Anyone else buying all the onions?
I'm going all the way. Onion.
Yeah, let me pull this up.
I feel like I'm getting trolled really hard, dude.
The clove and veggie flatbread, the Ascended stuff, the jar of salsa garnish, the mint and veggie flatbread, that uses onions.
Wait, mint and veggie flatbread. Hang on.
I'll link it. I'll link it in chat.
Dude, it does use onions. What the fuck?
It uses onions.
Yeah.
You think seriously, did you think I was joking?
I'm confirming that it does indeed use onions. Here you go. Look at that. Onion. It's right there. This is like outgoing healing. This is Plague Doctor necro food, though.
I know. Harbinger, support Harbinger when that drops. And when, unironically, the legendary food is actually coming.
What is it? What would that even be? Okay.
It goes in the armory, and you can just use it over and over again. What? You don't have to continue to craft.
That would destroy the economy.
It's fine if you don't believe me. It's fine. I'm going to expose it and I'm going to make a video about it. Well, the bots are gone, so now there's an economy and people can actually make money off of stuff like the onion farm. Like, you should prove it's like 60 gold for an entire bank tab full of onions. Look at that website that I linked. I'll just link it again. Like, I'll link it again. Look at this. Look at the supply and demand curves on that, and look at the onion peak. The onion peak, like ages ago, were like into the like 5 silver. If you go back to all time.
I feel like I'm being pitched an obscure cryptocurrency.
Monday, 26 August 2019, the sell price was 5 silver, 22 copper. The buy was 4 silver, 19. And now it's off at like 67 copper. You can seriously fill a whole bank tab of onions with like 60, 70 gold. And worst case is you just sell it all off and you don't lose any money. Use like 10 gold for the TP fees to just instantly dump it if it's not a thing. But it is a thing. It's like you don't have anything to lose on this. It's real.
Okay, before this becomes just like a flat advert for like the next troll video that's coming out on the, that's going to like try and meme the subreddit with the goddamn onion. This is an elaborate setup. Nike's onion farm guide. Zach made a song about the onion farm and, advertising Thief as the perfect profession to farm onions on. Now it's going to be part 3 coming out. Like, this is some This is big. 3 creators have collaborated on the Onion conspiracy. This is big. Sneb, when are you getting in?
Look, I don't get into pump and dump stuff. Look, admittedly, there was one time where I was listening to a TeaTime and you mentioned Lich runes and how they were going to be good, and I bought like 1,000 the moment you said it, and I made like a wicked profit because everyone else thought the same thing. But
hey,
other than that,
worm runes, strength runes, there's a history of it. There's a history of me being right about the economy and people making a lot of money off of it. Vicious Claws and Vicious Fangs were another one. I told a bunch of people ages ago, buy stacks of them because they're used in the back pieces that are about to be stat selectable. And they did, and they made literally thousands of gold.
You sound like, you know how there are those ads on social media where they're like, look at my life. Look at how I have made all of this money. Do you want to make all of this money? Well, one time I made all of this money. And so you should buy my course.
Well, the difference.
It's some like Wolf of Wall Street shit, man, dude. Like, it's like sounds like straight out of that movie. Like, yeah, you can trust me, you know, like, oh yeah. Okay, do not judge me by my winners, judge me by my losers, right? Like, it's actually Brazil role playing. He's going for the Oscar, man.
Tweet. This is the tweet. Like, this is my like full transparency. This is my position in Onions right now. That's real. Like, I have a bank tab filled with onions, and I'm probably going to increase my position. But the difference between those gurus that are scammers, I'm not telling anybody to give me money for this advice. I'm not telling anybody that they have to pay me $500 a month for my continued support on how to be an influencer. Like, I'm just telling people this. This is stuff that, like, I'm just giving out.
Sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna make money off of onions. Like, why can't other people do it?
What
like,
if everyone made money off onions because everyone bought onions?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But it's, I mean,
look, we can all be rich together, people. Buy my onion course.
I'm gonna need to see a full guild bank though. Like, just one bank tab? That's not good enough. Needs to be like
we filled the HS guild bank
with just onions, yeah, on 10 accounts. But anyway, moving on to something else. I was going to bring up legendary aqua breather and stuff like that, but actually I don't care anymore. I only care about legendary onions. But anyway, something else did happen, and maybe not quite as good as the legendary weapons. It was the gameplay reveal for Energy.
Yes.
The Arborstone revitalization mastery was fully shown on stream. The gameplay was insane.
Full transparency, I didn't see any of the Arborstone stuff because I was in a work meeting. So I saw the legendary stuff and I saw like a few other bits and pieces. So I am blissfully unaware about the Arborstone stuff. I don't even know if it's a meme. Is it a meme?
The good news is that you literally didn't miss anything.
Oh.
It looked very pretty.
Well, it looked like the Lost Woods in Ocarina of Time, which was cool.
I heard that it's like Eye of the North. Like, you know how you buy... Yeah. Why would they make another one of those? Is there a reason? Is it just a gold sink?
Well, they need a hub. They to be fair, they do need a hub of some sort for that area.
Why?
Because they want it... Well, I think they need somewhere to put like somewhere for people to AFK, like a city, right? They need to add like a city AFK area, essentially, and where they can put the.
Can't they just be Eye of the North? Stuff. Can't they just add like?
Wouldn't that be really weird?
Portals?
Wouldn't that be really weird if it was like in Corteria, but everyone's like in Cantha? I think it's just so it's not awkward to port around. Because think about it, like Cantha's going to be.
True.
We actually don't know how they're going to handle the world map. It could even be like another section of the map that you have to like tab over to some way, or it's going to extend really far down to the south. Because Cantha is actually really far south compared to like what the rest of the game is right now. So it's going to be very far away. So scrolling all the way up between either North and Cantha is going to be really awkward. So it kind of makes sense that they're going for that, I think.
Okay, I'm kind of indifferent then. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like that's cool. I'm not like wicked excited about that or anything, but I'm like, okay, I guess. When they made Eye of the North, I was kind of excited about it because I think it was just nostalgia. I was like, oh yeah, Eye of the North and Guild Wars 1, that was like a cool place, and Hall of Monuments and all of that. And I actually really like what Eye of the North has become, being that hub. If the new place is actually like a hub for the new strikes and it has like the exact same feel of Eye of the North, then sure, that's fine. It just seems like it's a bit. We have a lot of hubs, like people. We have all those like portal scrolls. Some people hang out in like Heart of the Mist. Some people hang out in the North. Some people hang out in LA.
Yeah,
and there's a great deal of people that hang out in Divinity's Reach. There is.
It's weird because it's an unusual map because it's an open world lobby, just like Out of the North. But there will be events there, and you can upgrade it to a big degree and like unlock loads of like lore stuff there too.
Oh, did they show any of the events?
What do you think, buddy?
They didn't?
Dude,
so it's like a city.
They turned the gameplay off as soon as one of the events spawned.
Oh.
What they did is they had someone that had an instance that had some of the upgrades done, and they ran around and they would switch the POV to someone that did not have an instance with the upgrades done, but they were like, it was like phasing. They were in the same place and they could see each other and interact with each other and interact with all the same objects, but one had like carpets on the ground, one had like sleeping refugees on the ground, and there was a char that was running around and doing slash dance on top of sleeping people and doing slash dance on top of statues of the human gods, and they did that for an hour. They just ran around and made inside jokes, and there was a char that did slash dance on top of stuff for an hour, and that was the second half of the stream. The first 8 minutes of the stream was the legendary stuff. They did the big stuff first, and then they just ran around maps for the guild hall, and they ran around Arborstone for 2 hours. And then they said, well, that's the big finale stream of the year. We'll see you in January. And that was it.
It was pretty brutal, not gonna lie. And yes, guys, I know they're not going to show events or anything like that, but team, that doesn't mean I can't criticize that. This is I'm under no illusion. Believe me, we're not going to see any gameplay before the expansion. It's just not going to happen, right? But it's not even about gameplay specifically. It's about understanding what the expansion actually has in it, right? Like what I find a little worrisome about the way that a lot of the game has been shown off so far is that we don't really know, right, what the expansion actually has, like in terms of activities. Well, you do, you can expect there's going to be maps, right? There's going to be like, story to do, there's some strike missions, but all of the actual gameplay elements, right, have not really been expanded upon in any meaningful way, right? Look, I bet most people have actually forgotten that they actually teased a really cool feature on their launch teaser stream thingy. They said that they're actually adding new technology to make champions, veterans, and regular mobs actually have like different abilities as they level up through tiers of veterancy. So like a champion giant crab will have different abilities to a veteran giant crab, and will have different abilities to a regular crab. Yeah, they didn't look. That's actually a really cool thing, right? That's a really cool feature, right? Didn't hear that? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yes, you didn't hear that because they didn't tell you. That is the point here. It's not copium.
They showed that,
right? It's not copium. They literally talked about this as one of their features, right? In the like the teaser thing there as well. It's like, why? There are loads of really interesting things about the expansion, but they just didn't really come up in the gameplay overview. I'm not big mad they aren't spoiling the entire story. I'm not even big mad that they aren't like talking about, showing off specific things on the map. I want to know, what am I doing? What are the activities the game is going to provide me? Why is Ender Dragon special? Why is this going to be like the big Guild Wars 2 expansion, right? That really nails down the formula for the game. That is what that stream was missing. It was beautiful. Dude, if I take that stream as what it is, it was fine, right? It was very pretty. The map is honestly amazing. It is fucking huge, right? There's going to be loads of interesting lore things to read and interactions. You've got masteries to upgrade. There's, they showed us like a few levels. I think there's like 5 levels in total. They only showed us like 2. I think they went up to the 3rd floor, but then they said, oh, no, can't go any further. Okay, that rock is a big spoiler. Watch out for that. But yeah, like that's kind of where it ended. But again, that's not the point. They didn't say what it does, right? Like I came away from that not knowing what any of the masteries actually do, right? Except like unlock lore and roleplay, which, hey, if that's all they do, then, well, okay. But yeah, like, what does it do? Like, what's the function? Like, what is it? In this case, like, why is this expansion going to be so attractive? That's my issue with the way the stream was presented. If they hadn't labeled it as a gameplay preview stream, I wouldn't have cared, right? But they did, right? And you can say, oh, why are you taking that word so seriously? Guys, quick note here. Guild Wars 2 is a video game. And when someone says gameplay, video game, that means something very, very, kind of evokes a certain level of imagery. You can't say, wow, Teapot, you got overhyped, okay, for this. Well, they shouldn't have called it a gameplay stream if they weren't going to show any gameplay, right? Say, oh, dude, like we're having some delicious food. And then you just like give them you just don't give them, oh yeah, dude, why did you get overhyped for all this food? What do you mean? Okay, what do you mean? Why would you be hyped for that? Like, we only just said that this is exactly what it's going to be. Then we didn't do anything, right? I don't know. So that's just the way it is.
So there was a post on Reddit about this that was really vitriolic, and they were really upset, which I understand. However, there was one really good post on there where somebody was like, but they said that this is what they were going to show. And apparently on their roadmap, they detailed precisely what they talked about in the thing. The weird part is that they said gameplay, and so people that didn't see the roadmap or like didn't remember it because it was so far, like forever ago, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna see like a strike, or we're gonna see like anything that has to do with a boss, right?" And then they didn't. So yeah. That's why people are upset. But at the same time, like, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. It just, maybe they needed to like remind people that that's what they were going to do,
And I would go so far as to say that they just completely did it out of order. If they ran around, so people, sometimes it takes a while for people to trickle into streams, right? Because they, catch the notification a little bit late. The number of viewers generally goes up on a big stream like that. You'll start out with 800 and you'll end at like 2,000. So if they just trickled in with like the Arborstone and then with the Guild Hall, and then they ended off on the big boom legendary and all these like cliffhangers about like, wait, how are you supposed to unlock them and change them? And then they said, haha, we'll see you next year. And just ended the stream. Like, that would have been cool. That would have been, I think, the correct way to do it. But instead, they just unloaded all the cool stuff up front. And by the end of it, people were looking for the gameplay and ready to see it. And then they're just like, okay, see you next year. And it was just a huge disappointment.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, and I do hope that I am pleasantly surprised when we actually do see the, Arborstone and the rest of the masteries in their full glory. We haven't seen all of them yet. The Jade Tech one is still unknown. I think there's one more after that. Too. So I don't know. I hope it's really good, but right now it's a very, very big, very, very empty map with some roleplay in it and some chairs to sit on. That's going to evolve, and it's going to be your new AFK spot, which is nice because it looks good. It looks good. But it's the same thing here with this. And like, I don't know, it's very easy for me to just sit here and complain about this stuff. But I want to talk about the character stuff. I wasn't going to talk about the story character stuff there as well. But in my opinion, this is another thing that hasn't been handled very well, okay? And let me explain why. So ArenaNet did like a bunch of character overviews. And, they said, oh, these are some of the important characters. The problem is, though, it's like there's no context whatsoever. So you don't, oh, yeah, this person like runs the Jade like operation. Well, like, who fucking cares, right? Like, why is that relevant? Well, you don't know. Like, yeah, sure, the characters are interesting. Like, oh, okay, we're going to be seeing these different factions battling against each other. But you need to kind of set up the context first. You need to set the scene. Like, if these you've had a little bit of character info, character profiling. after we've set up, why are we going to Cantha? What are we going to be doing there? Like, what's actually happening? Then, yeah, this will be really, really interesting, I think, to a lot of players, myself included there. But the thing is, we just have no context. Like, how is the Empress relevant to the story? For all I know, the Empress could be like someone who's just like chilling out saying, hello, welcome, adventurers, and you never see her again for the rest of the entire story. That's possible, right? I don't think that's going to be the case, but there's, because they did go to the trouble of introducing this character fully, right? But I know they don't want to spoil it, but I think there's got to be some level of setup. I mean, it's a lot, it's a bit of time now before the expansion, but we still have no idea, right? Why we're going to Cantha. There's a teeny tiny tease at the end of the return achievements when you talk to Timey and Gorik at the end. They're like, "Ooh, yeah. Okay, there's another dragon. Watch out for that. It's going to be pretty bad wherever that guy is. He's going to be really, really mad. End of Dragons Gaming. Let's go. Buy it. Using my referral link." Okay. But there's just not enough context for it to be truly like, oh, okay, I understand what this means, right? It is, okay, you know what? I'm bringing it full circle. This is all a setup, all part of the script, guys. Watching that ArenaNet stream when they were talking about those characters was a lot like someone who's never seen my stream before watching Brazil talk about how he's going to pump and dump the onion market, right? It's like, huh? It's like you can't, there's like a degree of separation there that you can't quite get it. It's not there. But I don't know, that's my take on that. And I got there with the Arborstone too. We just don't have enough context. Like, tell me why. Tell me why this exists. It's just not enough.
And you know what? If you're not going to do that, then do you remember the Fractals of the Mist trailer? Somebody posted that on the Reddit recently, and I watched it again, and like I got like goosebumps. I was like, whoa, like this looks like super cool, right? There's like very little context to like what it was exactly, other than it just showed a lot of like big bosses and like cool visuals and
stuff. The players disappearing one by one.
Yeah, like you were like, whoa, like what? It made you curious, right? It made you very curious. The problem is that I'm not sure if the recent trailers do make you super curious, because it's so out there. Like you have no idea at all. At least with like the Fractal trailer, you're like, oh, like I'm fighting bad guys with my buddies, right? Like that's all you need to know. It's not story related, but because the recent trailer is so focused on the story, it just comes at you out of left field, because if you're unfamiliar with the story, then it means very little, if nothing, to you, right? So that's kind of my issue. And then even if you are like, I watched it and I was like, oh, like Jade, right? Like there's like, I know some of these words, right? Like, but I didn't recognize the significance really, right? I just was like, oh, okay. That's yeah. So I feel like I'm like waiting for something more. And I imagine that if you're a brand new player or you've never heard of Guild Wars 2 before, you're just like, huh. There appears to be a woman that knows something about Jade. Why is Jade relevant?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how I've actually come out of this different than you, because the expectation of everyone probably right now is that it's story content, and considering what Sneb and Teapot think, they would infer that I hate it the most. But I like the way that they were excited about the characters and like talking about them kind of vaguely, but talking about the traits that they have, and how like the Dragon Jade engineer lady is like a 600 IQ genius who was poor, and she comes up and she's like, oh yeah, now I'm the engineer and I figured out how to make Jade a huge asset to everyone. And if you offer her help, she takes that as like she gets offended by that, because she's like, I've been on my own this whole time. Fuck you. I don't need your help. And I was getting interested about the stuff as they went on. I'm like, oh, wow. They actually, like, the characters aren't just zero-dimensional this time. Like, the characters aren't Ooga Booga, Muscle Bram, and Timey has all the answers. It sounds interesting. And there was stuff that I was speculating about, just kind of getting excited about a little bit. And it kind of got me. I was like, maybe the story is not going to be bad. Maybe this will actually be kind of cool. It got me like a little excited.
Okay,
which
I like it.
Like as all of the viewers of TeaTime will know that watch consistently, every opportunity I get to talk about how much I hate the story, I take it and run with it, right? Because like a little bit of it's trolling, like a little bit of is just like I don't like it, whatever. But I honestly, I think it might end up being kind of cool, and maybe I enjoy it for like the first time ever. Because there's one part of the story that I think is absolutely genius and perfect and executed on amazingly, and that's an Asura lady that you deal with at part of the personal story, who her husband is talking with you, and they go out to deal with this risen pirate ship that's killing everyone, and the husband's like, oh shit, well, this is bad, everyone. We've lost all hope. I'll just sacrifice myself and blow up the pirate ship. And you come back to the base camp, and the lady's like, oh, hey, where's my husband? And you have to explain that he sacrificed himself and it was noble. But she's like, it doesn't matter. I don't have my husband anymore. She becomes this selfish character where like the husband's sacrifice was noble, and everyone that signed up to go fight Zaitan signed up knowing they would die. And suddenly you get to see how whenever it affects you directly, how things change. It becomes incredibly personal. And so you see the lady later on in the story, like the chapter ends and you get the reward and click it. And when you're in Straits of Devastation and you're running through the pack base camp, you see her and you can interact with her and say, hey, how are you doing since the disaster? And she runs across a bridge and she cowers and cries. If you go talk with her again, she just says, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. And it's like, shit, whoa, this is cool. Maybe we'll have more of this since these characters actually seem kind of complex. Like I'm a little bit kind of pumped up about it. And both of you are like, this is stupid. They didn't make any revelations about the story. Why should we be interested in the characters? But it sounds like maybe we have more of that stuff. Maybe it'll be cool.
I'm not like complete hate mode on it. I just, for me, I kind of was like, there's something missing. Maybe I can't articulate it very well, but there's some big gap that exists for me. And maybe I'm just not the type. Maybe that marketing wasn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not the type to really speculate on the story because the story isn't as important to me as it would be to others. So I just look at it and go, like I don't really understand what's going on here. And when I try to put myself in the shoes of somebody that is perhaps have never heard of Guild Wars 2 before, if they see that, what do they gain from it? I don't know. Maybe they do gain something more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily designed for that, to be honest. I think, again, it's just like, just to tease people a little bit. Just maybe not something that, I don't know. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just that, you know, when I want to kind of get into the story and look at the story, so I want to know, like, what's the conflict, right? What's the actual, like, what's the deal here? You know, and I guess they're just not ready to reveal that just yet. But to me, the characterization of these characters, yeah, sure, they seem to be complicated characters, and there's going to be some, big conflict and motives there, and it's like a multifaceted thing. There's going to be loads of different factions fighting each other and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But to me, like, it doesn't mean anything to me unless I understand like what's actually going on. Like, how is this relevant? Like, what's going on there? Like right now, like I just say, oh wow, like it looks like Cantha is just like the world versus world roaming scene where everyone hates each other, right? Like, well, nothing new there. I mean, yeah, this is normal. I don't know, man. I'm just complaining. I'm just complaining for fun, guys. If Brazil isn't complaining, then dude, we've gone too far, right? Like me and Sneb, we're unchained right now. But this is how it goes. If you guys have been watching TeaTime for a very long time, you'll notice that the show actually corrupts people, right? Like Brazil essentially, exudes in the same way that Sneb juices himself onto his headband. Brazil juices everyone else, and basically, infests them, right, with his toxicity. And now Sneb is actually very toxic. It happened to Inks. Inks used to be very, very positive, right? He was happy. He loved the game. He was excited for Guild Wars 2. By the end of TeaTime, he hated the game, right? And the only reason he even came on TeaTime was to meme and be in Zach meme montages. And now the same fate has happened to Sneb. Unlucky, dude.
I don't hate the game. Don't worry.
Really?
I still have faith.
How do you explain that poll I did on my stream the other day where I said Goose Jam if Sneb hates the game? Remember that?
I think people really enjoy the Goose Jam emote. Really is what I think's going on. Like, what? Look, if I just say Goose Jam, everyone's gonna spam it in the chat, right? They love it. They love the Goose Jam.
I mean, who doesn't? Honestly, I mean, like, who doesn't love this stuff? But I mean, democracy doesn't lie, Sneb, except when it does.
Yeah, except when it does. True.
So
should we talk about the incident that happened before TeaTime?
I think this has been a fair, it's been fairly light on news, I think, this week. I was expecting a pretty meaty thing from the Arborstone stuff, actually. Oh, actually, before we can do some story time in a bit, but I guess one thing we can talk about is alliances, right? We don't need to talk about the beta stuff that much because, hey, the new elite specs, we've talked about that, okay, ad infinitum, okay? Like we've done that a lot, right? Don't need to talk about that. But have any of you guys played some World versus World this week with the World restructuring beta?
Nope.
I have not.
What do you mean, no? Okay? How dare you disrespect the cornerstone game mode of Guild Wars 2?
Okay, here's my opinion on World versus World. I actually really like World versus World, the concept, everything. My problem is that because it hasn't seen any updates in so long, I'm not super excited about it, right? There's like nothing for me to look forward to. So I suppose that the answer to that is alliances, but I have a hard time playing beta stuff. I like actually just playing the real deal, Like I just kind of want it to be done and then I can play it.
Wow.
But I don't know. That's just how I am. I went into World versus World and I noticed that there were more people roaming and stuff, which brought me great joy because I really enjoy roaming. But then I got ganked by like 4 people. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'm dead. And then they proceeded to like chase me down for the rest of the time that I was in there.
I think the timing was a little curious because they put the World versus World beta in at the same time as the Elite Spec beta, right? And so I just completely forgot that there was a World versus World beta and didn't do it because I was doing stuff on Harbinger. And I was getting mad at Willbender. So I was just like, it didn't even cross my mind that the World versus World beta was a thing, honestly.
Have you seen that Willbender is a big pumper now? Just to slightly move away. Did you see the Condi build that people were playing? It's actually insane.
I haven't seen it, but I heard about it this morning. Why? Like, Willbender has been advertised like pretty much as a power spec, right? A mobile power spec. But then this morning I'm on Reddit and while I'm doing my morning routine and I'm reading about this Condi build that's absolutely insane. And also people being mad that it could give perma alacrity. But I haven't played it and I didn't know anything about it. Maybe I would have enjoyed it, but is it really stronger than Firebrand though?
Well, you know what's really funny? Okay, and I love being right more than almost anything else. Okay, and I get to be right now, and this is super cool. I would highly encourage everyone. I'm gonna look. Don't worry, World vs. World. I haven't forgotten about you. We will talk about that very shortly. But what I was really happy to see. Do you know why? One of the reasons why it was actually really good on specifically 100 cm Eye Keeper of the Peak, because it's really fucking fast. And when she ran to the other end of the room, the Willbender like boop. Immediately over there with like all the leap stuff, he was able to instantly start DPSing again, right? And this is the exact point that I was getting at in some of the earlier tea times, is that there aren't enough fights that are very, very mobile, very, very fast, right? Big arenas, right? Range damage being good is also kind of the same thing, right? When you're chasing something down, you can still pew it when it's going a really long way away. And I think Willbender actually kind of demonstrated with this particular build in Fractals that mobility can actually have value in some of these PvE environments. You just need to have encounters that actually take value of it. Like I said, it was a record, or not record, sorry, but a kill by Discretized DT. You can probably find it on YouTube if you just look up Discretized Willbender, 100 cm, right, whatever. Definitely check that out because it really demonstrates how things that you wouldn't necessarily think about being good on a spec, like super high mobility baked into the profession mechanic, right, can actually be incredibly useful for handling mechanics and dealing with DPS uptime, right? Because, of course, the quicker you get to the boss, the easier it's going to be to not get hit by any of the mechanics, right? Because you're going to be there before the mechanics start to pop off, right? So actually really interesting to see how that actually played out. There's like a little bit of a distraction there from World versus World there. But yeah, pretty cool, guys. Yeah, you got to keep that DPS uptime. Mobility and range damage, DPS uptime. But back to World versus World, because I love making it impossible to make team stamps, timestamps. Team stamps, don't even know what that is. Okay, that's it doesn't make any sense. But we can't even do that. So the only example of all PvE, yeah, but it just says that in that case the combat system is underutilized in Guild Wars 2. More encounters should be like that, no? Like, doesn't that tell you something? Doesn't it tell you something really, really weird? That most fights in Guild Wars 2, you fight them literally standing in the hitbox of the boss, AFK. I think that's maybe a little bit fucked up. Like when most fights in World of Warcraft, a tab target boomer game from 2005, are more mobile than Guild Wars 2 fights. Doesn't that tell you there's something maybe gone a little bit wrong in the encounter design of the game, when Guild Wars 2 is always praised for having an amazing fluid dynamic combat system? Why is it that these other games are more mobile, right? In that case, why is it that games where you can't cast while moving are more mobile and more stuff like that? Like, why is that the case, right? It shouldn't be
bosses, where there are bosses that do move around.
Where?
Dungeons.
Boom. But they also die in 3 seconds.
And buff their health, buff their HP, give dungeons instabilities where the bosses steal all your boons away, and easy, you're good.
Yeah.
Imagine making Loopy like a raid boss.
It would farm people. If you actually made it a raid boss, it would farm people because its attacks don't have a consistent pattern. There's a level of predictability that you can have to kind of guess when things are coming up because of the precise timings, but it's ultimately unpredictable. I guess we've talked about dungeons enough. We should probably talk about World versus World.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, we've only got a very small allotted amount of time to talk about each individual dead game mode. Unfortunately, dungeons, they've had their allotted time. World versus World is going to get a little bit here. Maybe we can squeeze in raids and kind of talk about a topic that I really want to get into that we've never talked about before is actually the contrast between 5-man and 10 target abilities, specifically with regards to boons, and of course the difficulty in finding 5 more players to make your raid squad. But before we get to that, yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite topic. Limited edition TeaTime, never before seen. They talk about raids and squads and balance.
Someone just linked you something, didn't they?
Wait. I think Sneb went hard robot there.
Oh. I went robot?
Yeah, you went robot. Wait, it might have been me then. Wait, was it me?
I heard Sneb just fine.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Why he was like, I mean, look at those Mr. Destructoids. It was out of control. Oh, that was auto tune Robo Sneb right there.
Oh, nice. Did it at least sound good? Was it like?
I mean, you sounded fine.
It was good content. It was great content, guys. It really was. But yeah, World versus World. Seeing as I'm the only one who even remembers that game mode exists, I will say this. World restructuring is really fucking good. It worked extremely well, actually. Certainly on my matchup. I actually played on NA a bit too. I transferred to NA because partner powers mean I can change my alliance anytime I want. All right. Or my world anytime I like. But yeah, it was really good. It actually turned the game mode into kind of GVG. I was fighting multiple guilds the entire time. In my particular matchup, right? And the fights were pretty evenly matched. The populations were good there as well. Like, every team had a good amount of players. Queues were there. Like, the maps were all full. That's to be expected because it was a pretty hype thing and it was reset anyway. But yeah, I think they did a really good job on this. I think it can make World vs. World very, very exciting, actually. Their metrics and their calculations seem to actually work really, really well. And I've got to say, I think it can be a really, really big selling point for the game. If they really go hard on this and say, yeah, Guild Wars 2 is the best Realm v Realm game out there, I think they'll actually be able to claim that very, very soon. Because I think this matchmaking system is going to significantly increase the match quality of World versus World, certainly from what we've seen so far. And of course, alliances will make that even better by giving players more control over who they play with, right? What guild they're, what team they're going to be associated with, right? And all the players and, you know, interests of those players, like fighting, PPT, roaming, whatever. It's all going to be very, very well aligned. And I think it will also kind of bridge the gap between players, because you were talking about roaming, right, Sneb? Well, this kind of enables roaming a whole lot, because now you can have like your little roaming guild will kind of want to team up with a bigger guild anyway, so that the big guild can do the fights and the roaming guild can like roam around and snipe people and pick people off and stuff like this. I think it's gonna be really good.
I like that a lot, actually. My issue with World versus World is that I'm not really into the GVG stuff. Like, I think it's really cool and everything, but I just never have gotten into it. So what really intrigues me is content where like I can roam and it means something, like it actually has value. But
I mean, that will come naturally with alliances. I mean, that will come naturally with if you want to win the matchup, right? Right now, no one cares because there's no reason to do so, no leaderboard or anything like that. But when there is, then yeah, controlling the map and splitting up into little groups is going to be incredibly important to winning. Simple as that. Like, that will come naturally with alliances. But yeah, I mean, the thing about GVG is that the reason I think maybe not everyone kind of gets into it is because it's a player design game mode, and it's, you know, you have to take another step to get there. You know, like, where do you start? How do you get into GVG, right? Like, what do you do to you know, go about this process? But with world restructuring, I really think the game mode will be GVG. It's going to be that, because you're going to be fighting other guilds all the time, right? You're going to be fighting groups of guilds on every board. It's not going to be like a random Zerg of players with like loads of different tags. You're going to be fighting a giant blob, and it's all going to be players from guilds. It might be like 2 guilds mashed together sometimes. It might be one giant one or a bunch of little ones, right? But it will all be guild versus guild. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it actually looks, just from an optics point of view. I think it looks exciting, right? When you see all the players kind of like stacking up, like everyone's playing with the same tag. It's organized, right? It's regimented. Everyone's got it. It looks fucking great, you know? Yeah, it's like very, very meaningful. Like, the gameplay, again, is maybe not going to change a crazy amount. I mean, world versus world is world versus world, right? But I think just from the way it's going to work from a social standpoint and from an optics standpoint to players looking into the game, I think it's going to look really, really good. And in general, reducing the size of Zergs that will come with alliances will also make it a lot more less complete clusterfucky, I think, which will also make it a little bit more appealing and like more understandable to players outside of it. But no, there will still be public tags. I mean, look, trust me, guys, the reason why people don't run public tags right now partially is because people care about winning. Don't care about winning, rather. If people care about winning, then there is no reason to not have people in your squad, pretty much. That's just not how it's going to go, you know, whatsoever. People will definitely try hard this. And hey, look, you know, public tags, they will be necessary if you want to win the matchup, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And hey, look, is it really so bad that you're going to have to join a guild? You know, is that really so bad that you might have to join a guild to play with the same players consistently? Not really. And there'll still be stuff to do, right? You know, even if you're not in like the main guild of your alliance or whatever, or one of the guilds in the alliance, you're still useful with like roaming around killing things. And again, you'll become more important. And this is where I think the toxicity could come down as well. Like, because all of a sudden, you know, you're going to want players doing different things. Instead of saying, hey, listen, everyone get in this group so we can fight this like mega map blob on the other side. It's going to be more of a collaborative effort where you're caring about the objectives a little bit more, which I think should make the game mode a little bit less friction filled as it is right now. Like, players should share interests a bit more, which is really good. There you go.
Yeah.
The world versus world is weird because there's no reason to win. You know, like, other than just you're like, yeah, I won, right? There's no like reward. You know how PvP has like the monthly automated tournament, and in PvE you get gold and whatever. But world versus world, if you like win the fight, there's nothing there, right? There's what do you get? I maybe there is something I don't know. So, but that's my issue with it. I wish that when I killed somebody, I was like, yes, this means something, right? Like because right now it's like, oh yeah, like you won, right? You get bags, yeah, but it's like nothing relative to PvP, right? So I don't know. I think it would be cool if there was like some prestige to winning the fight, like winning the war.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm hopeful that will come too, since they're making alliances, because now things can be way more organized.
I have an idea that I think would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
What if they change the color of your guild tag when you're in World versus World and have like a gold guild tag, a silver guild tag, and a bronze guild tag? So if you're the bronze guild tag and you see the gold and you're about to engage with them, you're like, oh shit, we're about to get farmed. We need more people.
That or what if there was like a temporary gizmo, but not the same gizmos as PvP, but there's like a temporary, like some kind of like for the month or whatever, for the matchup rather, you had this like special aura around you.
Oh yeah, I think look, leaderboard stuff, that's going to be big, right? If there's anything to do with the leaderboard, people are going to go crazy, right? Like if presenting that in game would be like the icing on the cake. You know, people have always wanted trimmed guild capes from Guild Wars 1. I mean, I wonder if they would ever do something like that. Nah, there's no way, right? Oh man, that is copium. Like that's too much copium even for me. Like that's an overdose right there. But yeah, I mean I think they could do something like, you know, a badge, just like PvP, right? With like the legend badge, right? The plat badge and so on there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Right? I think that's something that they'll almost certainly look at in the future. It'll be key to making it work there. Indeed. But yeah, I view this beta as a really big success. It's got a few bugs in it, but overall it really seems to work well. And I've been seeing really good feedback. A lot of people have been commenting that the matchups were really good, and a lot of the fights were fairly even, you know, population-wise, and in terms of, you know, like intensity-wise there as well. So it seemed to go extremely well.
You really don't think they would ever do trimmed guild capes?
Maybe there are some capes in the game, right? So it's possible they would do that. As an item, so you know it will be temporary, right? Like, or they could make it even scripted, right? I wonder if their engine can do that. Like, if you can have a flag that changes the color of your cape automatically based on like your rank in PvP or something.
Yeah, well, if they have leaderboards, like if they find a way to integrate leaderboards, why can't they just do that with, like, if you're a member of that guild, then your cape turns gold or something? Because they have to have a way to track that, right?
Yeah, I guess the question is can they connect that to changing an item, right? Do they have a script that can say, hey, we have this piece of information, you need to change the color in this channel based on that information? I guess they could. I don't see why they couldn't, right? Might be a bit weird to do that though.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they could. It would be really cool if they could do that. I think that would be awesome. I think what if you're Warbringer? If you have Warbringer turns like gold, silver, or bronze.
Oh yeah. That would be pretty good. Yeah, the legendary. That'd be a fun feature.
That's actually a good idea.
Well, yeah, like cosmetics. Cosmetics are seriously like the biggest thing in Guild Wars 2.
It's the flexing, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
What if you just got tokens that allowed you to upgrade, like if you won or something? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Obsidian weapons. Okay, yeah. We already have this. Yeah, Obsidian weapons do change color based on the matchup, right? Therefore, we could actually have a cape that changes color based off something, or like at least a particle effect that changes based off a piece of data about your character or your account. Okay. Well, there you go then. We're in business already. Just need to add that to World versus World. Now, there is this one concern about alliances, and you know, I think you know we'll kind of wrap this up here. This will be the last thing for World versus World. I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole in this because we haven't really got enough information on alliances yet to really kind of do a deep dive on this here as well. I think it's a valid concern though. Like the concern is that because the matchups are going to shift a lot, or rather the alliances are going to shift. Basically, the servers are going to completely reshuffle, like every 2 months or every 3 months or so, which is what you have with relinks right now. But now the servers stay intact, but now the servers won't. They're basically going to get shuffled around all over the place. So in other words, like different groups of alliances, right, will get matched up with different alliances every single time. So the only players you'll consistently play with are those on your alliance. There is a bit of a concern that this does kind of throw people all over the place a little bit. So you don't have as much, of a static team, like a static community, which is still a thing, by the way, right? If you look at some of the kind of old school World versus World servers, stuff like Desolation, definitely Maguma, right? Pike and Square, Gandara, there is actually a lot of server community. There are players that, I play on Gandara. I always play on Gandara, always played it, right, since the start, You know, for example, I wouldn't want to leave Underworld. Okay, I'm an Underworld gamer, guys. I'm not leaving. Okay, I'm staying. Of course, it won't be relevant in the future, but that's the idea. And I'm curious. I think that ArenaNet can try and fix this a little bit. I think they can add stuff like alliance chat, proper alliance recruitment features, so alliance can join together. But you're still going to be limited on how many players. You only have 500 players in your alliance as of right now. So you can't just like mash a bunch of guilds together. Like eventually you will kind of have to split up. I think it's a bit of a natural consequence of the system. It's going to make it a lot more granular, but in some ways, I think this is superior because, yeah, you're not going to have that really big community, but you're going to have a lot of small, like very tight, very social communities that will have to interact with other ones outside there. You're going to have like loads of guilds. It's going to be very guild focused, very, very guild focused instead of being this kind of nebulous server focus there as well. It will automatically get broken up. What do you guys think about that? Like, do you think it's a problem? Do you think that there should be some kind of way? Do you think alliances are too small? Or does it not matter at all?
I think we just gotta let it play out a bit more and see what happens. I don't have like a super strong opinion about alliances yet. My biggest concern is that they're not going to finish it in time. that's maybe bad, but like I'm seriously concerned. Alliances to me is a big deal just because it's kind of like repairing a relationship. You know, like they because they've promised alliances were going to be done at multiple points in the last several years, and if they don't follow through this time, then it's problematic. However, they are following through, so I'm most concerned that it's just not going to be done in time for EOD.
Oh, it's not coming out with EOD. No way. No way.
Well, didn't they originally say that it was going to be done by the end of the year?
Well, they said that there'll be. They said there'll be like beta before the end of the year. They didn't say it was going to be done. They said, yeah, Alliance is 2021. They didn't say that it was going to be finished, just that it would like exist. And it does exist, kind of. Nearly. But no, I don't think Alliances, no. When it comes to Alliances, I would not expect to see them until like 3 months after EOD. Honestly, that might be early, right? It's going to be a long time, like a real long time. You know?
Yeah, 6 months minimum.
Yeah. Do you think that's a problem, Sneb? Is that bad?
Well, no, I could be wrong about this, so I want to make that very clear. Maybe I've misunderstood or something. But my understanding was that, like, was there a post that said Winter Alliance is coming, and they said this year. So maybe they meant that the betas were happening this year, but I interpreted that, and again, could be very wrong. It's been a long time since I've read that. I interpreted that as they were going to be done by the end of the year. And maybe that's just total incorrect thinking by me. But when I read that, I was like, really? that's bold. I wouldn't have promised anything, maybe. I would have just been, well, they kind of needed to. I think it's pretty important that they get alliances done. It's really important. Just as like a, hey, community, we see you, right? Like, we care. So... yeah, I don't know. Anyone else feel like that? Am I the only one? Like they've
I mean, maybe it was poorly worded. Yeah, I mean, maybe
times.
They've worded things poorly before. Let's just.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a wording issue. I didn't really. Yeah, I think that they didn't necessarily say it was going to be out. Just that it was going to, the testing was going to begin, and the development was going to be very public with all the betas and stuff. But I'm seeing a few people in the chat as well. Saying that they also assumed it was coming out by the end of 2021, but yeah, that's definitely not on the table. And I would be really shocked if it came out with EOD. Bear in mind that they haven't even finished the bug testing and the beta for the world's restructuring, not even Alliance. We haven't seen anything about that, and ArenaNet are about to go on break for the holidays. Our next stream that we're seeing from them is January 28th. So realistically, nothing much is going to be happening until then. So at the very earliest, we might see like an Alliances test early next year, like maybe at the start of February, like 1 month before the expansion. Nah, they're not doing that. I don't think we'll see anything about Alliances until after the expansion is already out, right? There's going to be like a test after at that point. We'll still be with the normal system, but yeah, I think you could definitely see it 3 to 6 months into EOD. Then we see the actual finished product.
I would actually say that that's the correct move, because what they did with raids at launch, right? Or at launch of Heart of Thorns, they're like, we're not going to release this exactly at launch because we want you to experience the expansion first. We want you to go and do all the core expansion story content, and we want you to do the maps and all that stuff like they did with raids. They wanted people to have a chance to get into the rhythm of things and like learn the new elite spec. So I think it's completely reasonable that like 3 to 6 months after the expansion releases that they release alliances then. So you have people just doing all the stuff, whatever. I guess you'll be able to insta unlock all the elite specs and then just play it in World versus World if you have the tokens. What are they called? The proof of heroics, those things. I don't know, but I think that's fine. I think the World versus World players are going to be upset about it, but also I think if they released it at launch, the World versus World players would be even more toxic and chase everyone out of the game mode that's just now coming in with their brand new elite spec and just wants to see the new map or whatever, or wants to go play with their guild. The World versus World players would just immediately chase them out of all the Discord servers, out of the maps, because they want to experience that game. World versus World players are poisonous. They are.
Oh my god.
Anyways.
Oh my god. Holy shit. Brazil's bringing down the hammer on the World
damn
versus World
Scotsman. Damn Scotsman, they're ruining Scotland, right? That's exactly what it is.
After that brutal condemnation of the World versus World community, you're completely right. Like, rushing would be the worst thing you can do. Don't do it. Do not rush this stuff. It's much better that it takes a little bit longer and it comes out, in a good state, right? With some iteration behind it, but they also need to be ready to also change it and tweak it, like as it goes down the line too. Which I think they're going to have a much easier time doing. Now they're being a lot more open with testing it with the beta stuff. Like, I think the elite specs. Like, imagine, just imagine, gamers, if there hadn't been elite specialization betas and they'd dropped on EOD launch like the first beta. Imagine if Willbender came out like that. Imagine if Catalyst just said, hey, yeah, here's Catalyst, by the way. Right? Enjoy.
That would have been very bad. They would have ended up reworking them 7 times like they do with Chronomancer.
Oh, man. That's good stuff. It is good stuff indeed. And all of the hype has died. It's not like, well, this is the constant AM. Well, I mean, isn't it going to like revitalize the hype though? Like, why would that not just like bring the hype back? Like, it's like another bump. That's the way Guild Wars tends to operate, right? Like, you have these kind of like ups and downs of hype. Yeah, the expansion is going to come out. Everyone's going to be going crazy. But isn't that enough? Like, people are going to be playing all the new specs in World versus World, trying them out, all that kind of stuff. You're going to have some excitement. Then there'll be tests and betas, right? And more. There's going to be reward restructuring in World versus World, almost certainly. Like, leaderboard, competitive stuff. I think that is going to be like more exciting than the actual expansion itself. Look, I'm going to make a very bold prediction. Okay? Is this bold? Oh, no. I thought the chat's going to make fun of me for having yet another really, really cold take. But, okay. I think the End of Dragons is actually not going to be as hype as what comes after it over the next 6 months, right? Or I hope it isn't anyway. I think that the stuff like the systems restructuring, the new approach to developing content and designing content in the game, adding new systems to World versus World, all the other stuff, I think that's actually where the interesting long-term stuff kicks in. Because listen, team, right, this is not a Keck W. Look, do you know what's going to happen on an EOD release date? You guys are going to burn that content in 1 day, right? You're going to play through the story. You're going to play through the maps, right? You're going to do all of that in less than a week, right? That is less than a week. Okay.
Yeah, and then complain about how there's no content.
Yeah.
Right?
The really interesting stuff is going to be how do they actually reinforce the current game systems to make them like more replayable, right? How are they going to make strike missions really interesting so you keep playing them? What are they going to do with World versus World to make it compelling, to make it exciting, right? To give it a little bit more oomph, some meaning, right, to it, with alliances, with guilds. That is where the good stuff's going to be. How about, the living story, right? Are they going to drop strike missions with that? Like, what are they dropping with it? What's coming with the strike missions? Okay, what's coming with the story then? Like, what's in the actual episodes? Because they've always struggled to maintain this content release flow, and that's been the downside of it. Like, no one's ever like, wow, I really hated that expansion back. It was so bad, right? No, like ArenaNet obviously do a good job with this stuff, right? Wow, these elite specs, they're so horrible, right? No, that's not what needs to be improved about the game. It's the consistency. And I think that's what they're going to really focus on, which is why I think they're not going to rush these systems. Because look, one of the reasons why Guild Wars 2 stands so strong, honestly, like, quite robust, taking a bit of a beating over the years, is because of how good it is systemically, right? And I think really smoothing those out and making them even better after End of Dragons comes out is where the real magic could potentially happen. Look, maybe it completely flibs. Okay, as great. I'm saying, oh yeah, maybe the expansion completely fails right as Grouch moves into the stream. Perfect. I love to see that. But yeah, I think there's actually a lot of potential. I think the expansion is in a way like the appetizer, right? Hey, it is the catalyst. Well, look at that. I'm a sucker for Brazil content, dude. Time to reapply for ArenaNet partner, dude. Let's go. But yeah, I think post EOD.
I have to hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's do it.
So Grouch actually had a permanent, long-lasting effect on me as a human being.
Wow.
And you may not even remember this, Grouch, but we did the first dungeon tournament, and you like emailed Nike, and you said he shared this with me, and you said, I hope it's cool that I'm like sharing it publicly. But you're like, yeah, the dungeon tournament was great, except Brazil is out of control, and most of the stuff he said was super cringe, and he needs to get a hold of himself. I read that, and I'm like, oh my God, he's right. Like, I went back and watched some of it, and I was like, shit. Like, I need to get more, like, I need to rein some stuff in. Like, he maybe I was not supposed to talk about that or ever mention it, but I guess maybe it's been a long enough time. But damn, like, you opened my eyes a little bit. Yeah, character. But anyways,
we need Grouch to just stalk the Reddit and basically put his arm around a bunch of people's shoulders and be like, "Son, you need to stop.
Stop posting cringe."
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh goodness me, goodness gracious me. But yeah, I mean, like on that topic, I just there you go. There's my take, guys. Post EOD, actually really hype, like big hype. That is where the game really needs to get some value, in my opinion. That's where the really exciting things need to go down, because an expansion is not enough. Like, you've got to sustain it, specifically with the way Guild Wars 2 works. Like, Guild Wars 2 is based off that, smaller periodic releases, and that's what needs to get nailed down. If they can do that, in EOD, it's just the beginning of the redemption arc. Yeah.
Yeah, they're already doing the little things. Like DX11 has been a wonderful experience for me, and they're like making promises now, like big promises like they used to do. But I actually believe them this time. I have complete faith. Whenever they say stuff like World versus World is a cornerstone game mode and we want it to be great, like I believe that. I think this is going to be big. I think this is an ArenaNet that everyone should, at this point in time, believe in, and people should be hopeful that the content is going to be good, because I really believe it will be. It's not copium. It's not copium. It's real. It's not like the Onion manipulation where it's 100% fake. Like, this is actually real. You should believe this. This is going to be good.
Yeah,
Onions went up to 85 silver, by the way. They 85 copper. They jumped.
Yeah, they've already made a jump. No, I really want to. I think that's such a great thing to break DX11 there. I think it's really important to kind of recognize like what's going on there. The expansion is going to be really, really nice. It's going to draw people to the game. It's going to have that big kind of content dump with players having something to do. They're kind of a bit of a fresh start for the game. But yeah, I think the really interesting stuff is DX11. It's World vs. World Alliances. It's strike missions getting brought into the game. It's reworking how they look at the living story and integrate that into the end game repeatable content. Can they handle fractals at the same time? Could they release 5-player content simultaneously with 10-player content while balancing them? Yeah, stuff like we're adding a balance team to balance the game. That is where the game, like the really exciting stuff, and that's not necessarily coming out with the expansion. Alliances aren't. DX11 probably will still be in beta for some time after the expansion as well. I don't think that's quite finished yet. It's certainly getting there, but that's not done yet. Again, strike missions, the proof is going to be in the pudding, continuing that going on. Right, yeah, Legendary Armory. Okay, I see Dartringer putting an XD in the chat there. Yeah, like, although he was talking about the onions, but still, Legendary Armory, that's another amazing feature, like aspirational story, kind of like feature for players to go after. Like, these are the things that make the game compelling. Like, dumping a bunch of content, great, but that will only get you so far. Remember, this is an MMO in 2021, nearly current year +1, guys. Right? The players burn the content way faster than the devs could make them. Even if we went to Seattle, right, and started like whipping all the devs and they work 24 hours a day, right, like actual slave labor, they still wouldn't be able to make enough content, to actually like keep everyone satisfied, right? It's the systems and how they actually leverage that content and make it compelling that matters, which is exactly what stuff like Alliances, DX11, Armory, repeatable strike missions, fractals coming into play on a regular basis. It's like, that's how you get the job done. So yeah. Again, a bit of a weird side note there on like the whole EOD stuff, EOD hype. Yeah, I think Ender Dragon's going to be great, but the really important stuff is yet to come after that. And like delivering on that is really important, which, hey, hopefully we hear some more about that, guys. We got another stream in like 2 months, but
it's about building on these systems that they've proposed to us, right? Saying, hey,
Steam is recognize Steam release. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they said that we recognize, the strikes. It's a little bit confusing. They're going to redo that reward system, and they're going to make a new one with the End of Dragon strikes. It's building on that now. One criticism I think Guild Wars 2 gets a lot is that they make a ton of systems or try a bunch of different things, but they abandon it too quickly. My belief is that if they can take these things that they proposed and really focus on them and refine them rather than dropping them for something else, that's when we'll see a lot of positive changes in the community and people will be more happy and whatever. But I would really like to see strike missions, for example, continue on and be really successful. I think a lot of people are really doom and gloom about that, but the reality is that strikes are easier to jump into than raids just by design. And if they can balance the difficulty level with accessibility, I think that'll be a really positive thing. Because right now you have to have like openers to get in certain bosses, and it's kind of weird in raids. Some people like that, but I really believe that if these strike CMs pan out and they iterate and they fix the problems if there are problems and they fix bugs and they really focus on that it can be a very, very good thing for the community all around.
Yes. And I think that's a perfect segue, actually, Sneb. Let me kind of round it up there. Now, a while ago, before we got distracted horrifically, we mentioned that we, maybe a little bit of a story time there. Just, tales from the raid scene here, actually, to kind of like round up. So, it's been a fairly quiet week, and we thought we could just tell you guys some cozy stories, bring up some memes, because actually we did a really cool, we had a really fun raid yesterday, and we'll talk about that in a little bit there. Some one-handed raid gaming, which was really exciting, actually, and even involving Doom CM, if you can believe it. But Sneb, do you want to tell us a story about what's happened?
There's more to it now.
Oh, there's more. It's an evolving story.
Yes. So just before TeaTime started, I was trying to get into a raid because there was a pug that said they're doing Wing 2. And for those that don't know, I have my main account, and then I have 2 NA alts that both have full Minstrels and full Vipers ascended. So I can play, like, one has Minstrel Chronos, I can tank, and I can also play Staff. One also has Hollow with full ascended Berserker. And then the other has a Guardian, so it has Quickness Firebrand, DPS Firebrand, and Minstrel Healbrand. So I have these alts. I don't keep kill proof on the alts, and the reason I don't is because if I did, it would take up an entire bank pane, and with all the gear and crap, like, my inventory is already scuffed. So I don't keep it. I just eat it and let my guild take it, right? So I was on one of my alts and I joined, and I will acknowledge that this part is my fault. It said KP in it, but honestly, when I join groups, I just never even look at that on NA because half the time they don't ask, and half the time I know somebody in the group and they just vouch for me and it's fine. So I went in, and this person, I say, hey, I'm playing Healbrand, and they go KP. That's say KP, and I just typed. And again, I will acknowledge that this may have been a mistake because I understand why they interpreted it this way, but I didn't mean it to come off the way that they interpreted it. I said, haha, man, it's been a long time since I've been asked for that, because genuinely, I haven't pinged KP in months. Like I never do. I'll just say something like, oh, just like trust me. If I suck, kick me or something. But I said that. And then I said, and then immediately after, I followed it up with, "Hey, I don't keep any KP on this alt account because I just eat it for my guild." And then I was immediately kicked. Immediately. And the funny part was that there was somebody I knew in the squad, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Sneb's good," and they just immediately kicked me. So I whispered them, and I was like, "Yo, you don't believe me?" Or like, what's the deal? And they wouldn't respond to me for a while. And then I finally was like, all right. I let it sit for a bit. And then I whispered them and I said, "Hey, I'm curious. What could I have done differently to convince you that I'm adequate in the raid?" And they said, "Ping the KP." They said, "Ping the KP." And I was like, I explained to you that and they also said, "Ping the KP. Don't think you're better than pinging the KP." And there's something else. Oh, they said, because I said, you can just kp.me, right? Like, just like look me up. And they were like, "You need to give me the name for your kp.me." And I was like, "You kicked me before that. Like, I didn't even get a chance." So yeah, it's and I think the reason that they thought that I thought that I was better than KP was because of my first comment. So I acknowledge that maybe it was interpreted. I really didn't mean it in a malicious way or anything, but they immediately kicked me. And like, I just can't understand this attitude anymore especially on NA, right? It's just not good. Like, they didn't even give me a shot. I don't ask people for KP ever anymore, and sometimes I get the occasional person that doesn't know what they're doing, but you can communicate and figure it out. Then it happened again, actually 5 minutes ago. I had my game open and there was a Wing 5, and I joined it because I could HB tank. I joined it and I said, "Hey, HB tank." And this was for SH, right? I needed 1 CM to complete for my alt. And they were like, "KP." And I was like, "Actually, I don't have KP on my alt and I did like the same thing." And they were like, "KP." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just show myself out this time." Like, it's...
Wait, Sneb, I've got to call you out here, bro.
Yeah.
Do you not say that you must abide by the rules of the LFG? You have broken the rules of the LFG. They desire the KP, you did not link it. You are the villain.
Well, not really. I mean,
the villain in your own story.
I have the KP on my main, but I'm on my alt account. So I just usually I can just go to somebody and be like, "Hey, I don't have the KP on this alt, but I do have it on the main. Is there something I can do to prove it?" But these people are just being like, "Nope, there's not." So it's kind of unfortunate. But the funny part is that group is still looking for a tank. It's been like 15 minutes.
Well, here's the thing. This is nowhere even remotely close to a new problem. And this was something that Nemesis was talking about in 1996, when it was still an issue, before Guild Wars 2 even came out, where he would join a fractal LFG on a Necromancer.
In 1996.
Yes, and they would kick him out of the group because he would join on a Necromancer. And they would sit in the LFG and they would wait. They would never find a group, and he would join another group and he would finish it while they were still in the LFG. And sometimes he would whisper them and say, like, "Haha, noob, like, you never found the group. Like, this is going on YouTube," and stuff like that. And it's just like, take whatever joins, do it, do like a pull or two, and if they don't know what they're doing at that point, just kick them and like put the LFG back up.
Look, I got to address chat for a second. All of you are like, oh, you broke the rules.
Ooh.
Oh, blah blah blah. Look, people, in both of these instances, I knew people in the squad, and they vouched for me, and they still kicked me because I didn't ping the KP. It's just like a ridiculous semantic experience. Like, I have the KP on my main account. I'm on my alt account trying to help them get the clear and promote the LFG and raids when I don't need to, because I can go and just start my own group and pick completely from my guild and Hardstuck. But I just do it to help, and they semantic nitpick me and kick me for no reason. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Well, it's if people want to be shithead elitists and they want to sit in the LFG all day, and one by one people slowly leave and they never fill the group because they're insecure and they're not even confident enough in their own ability to clear the raid, then just let them do it. Just let them suffer through it and let them not have a good experience, because in their head they're so convinced that the only way they're ever going to clear a boss is that everyone in the group has 1,000 KP for Desmina or whatever it is. I don't ever ping KP either. If I join a raid pug, I'll join, like, what I'll do is I'll join a raid pug. No. I'll join a raid pug that says like 1,000 KP, and I'll ping 250 Bone Skinner tokens, and they either flame me for it being Bone Skinner, and I'll just leave or get kicked, or I'll ping stacks of LIs and LDs. I'll switch to every character I have and ping all 3 sets of legendary armor. And I'll just say, is that enough, guys? Is that okay? And then I'll ping the Bone Skinner tokens after that, just to follow it up with that. Like, is that okay, guys? Did we waste enough time seeing how much KP I have to go and do the raid now? Like, so if people can sit in the LFG all day and fill it up with toxic, poisonous raid selling groups, then you know what? I get to have 5 minutes to go troll. Like, I'm allowed to troll.
I think my main issue is the semantics of this, because people can fake KP all the time. I guess I could have just gone and faked my KP and just been like, oh yeah, I've now done the exercise. I understood the assignment, right? Like, but the thing is, like, somebody was in there to say, hey, oh yeah, Sneb's good. Like, don't worry about it. And they just ignored it, and they were like, all right, you better show me this virtual currency that allows you to pass through this gate. Like, it's just kind of silly. And I mean, on one hand, I can understand that they're like really hypersensitive, but the problem is that the NA LFG isn't in a state where you can be that sensitive.
Yep.
It's just not, right? Like, you can't do that. Like,
what's happened?
That group, the group was looking for a tank for 15 minutes when somebody vouched for me. I told them, I explained the situation, and they wouldn't even give me a shot. Don't do that. It's not a good exercise.
Wait, but hold up. I feel like I've actually like moved over into some like bizarro alternate like Sneb reality at this point, because this will be uploaded soon. Oh, this is going to be great with the comments, because there's going to be uploaded soon like Scuffed TeaTime, where we talk about KP with Isa a lot at some point. And
these don't contradict. They don't.
How do they not contradict? Like, you're saying that you got kicked for not linking, and that you're expecting people to trust you and like give you a try, but why would they do that?
Other people are vouching, and I'm like, people won't even give me the chance to say my KP.me. And fun fact, half the people on NA don't even know what KP.me is. So I could link that, but they don't even use it. So I'd have to have the physical thing. So what they're basically, it's just like a silly practice, because I already have people that are like, oh yeah, like, don't worry, Sneb's got the KP. And they're just like, don't believe these 2 or 3 people in the group that also pinged KP. So I must now kick this person, even though they're being vouched for, and even though they have the first set of Envoy armor. Like, it's just like such a strange practice. Like, they have every right to kick me if they want to. It's their group. Like, every right. I respect that. I don't agree with it. Like, I think it's a bit silly, right? Like, just the semantics of the experience. Like, I'm telling you that I'm experienced. I understand you may not trust me. Somebody else then vouches for me and says, oh, actually, yeah, like this is the person. Look, to go and vote in an election, you can go and if you don't have like a certain piece of ID or something, you can get somebody to like confirm your identity. And like these people are going beyond like voting standards. Like it's just like...
Well, yeah, of course they are, because it's a video game and everything's exaggerated and fake anyways. But so here's the thing. I totally think that people should have the ability to post an LFG that asks for however many KP that they want, and they should be able to kick people out of the group that don't link KP. I think that's 100% fine.
Yeah.
I 100% respect that. And they need to respect that if I think it's stupid, I can join the LFG because it's public and I can link Bone Skinner tokens and ping all my legendary armor, and then they can just kick me if they want.
Well, I feel like we shouldn't be... Look, if we're actively like trolling... If we're actively trolling, though, then why would we complain about it, though? I'm a little confused right now, to be honest.
I'm not actively...
I'm not complaining about it at all. I'm not complaining.
Look, I'm going in with the intent to help these folks. I've tanked SH a million times. I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to help. I'm not calling them names, by the way. I'm saying the practice of this is silly. It's silly. They have every right to do what they did, and I respect that because they're the leader. I could go and make my own group. I had people whispering me in their group saying if I started the group, they were willing to leave.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the leaders didn't know who you were, right? Like when I joined groups, I don't know who the fuck I am, right? You know. Like,
of course, right? Like, I don't expect everybody to know who I am. That's why I went in and I was like, hey, I don't have the KP on this alt account. I raid on 3 accounts though. I eat all the KP on this account. And then somebody be like, oh yeah, don't. And then somebody in the group is like, don't worry, Sneb's good. And then they still like, they won't listen. Like they don't have any patience. They don't care. Like, it's so instant. My frustration is that they're not willing to communicate, right? Like if they're like, hey, you know, like I don't know if I fully trust this. I really need the KP. Then I guess I can log into my alt account or I can give them the kp.me. But the problem is that half of them don't have kp.me. Like on NA, that's not really a thing. Like people don't really know about it. And I had somebody not trust me once and kick me from a group because I went on my main and I linked my KP and they said they couldn't confirm it was the same account, like that I was the same person. Even though I was like whispering them at the same time.
Okay, let me just try and like bring this round into something that can maybe go somewhere. So I think there is something to actually talk about here. And that is that perhaps people getting burned a lot on the LFG causes people to not want to waste time and not want to fuck around. Would you say that's an accurate statement? So maybe the reason why you got the boot, right, is because they see, right, like, ooh, this is my alt, guys, haha, hee, hoo, hoo, yeah, it's my alt, guys, not sussy, by the way. They've seen that a million times, and when they take people like that, it's a feed man, an int god, just feeding deep,
I've never had that happen.
Right? Dude, that happens, man.
It happened last night in Doom CM. It happened. There were 3 people that joined that said they had done Doom CM, and there were like one of them had never even done regular Doom. Like it literally happened last night on stream. And also, like I've done Doom CM 5 times, and I got picked like 4 times.
So you're saying that you're the imposter as well, right? Like you're.
Well, I wasn't trying to be, but there's like, it just is what it is. But like, yeah, it's people. Look, people are insecure.
They're absolutely entitled to do what they did too. You know what the problem is though? They now just, instead of giving me 1 shot to see if I knew what I was doing, they waited in the LFG another 20 minutes.
Well, okay, I'm really confused though, because you're saying that this doesn't conflict with your other view, but how does it, how is that possible? Because when we've talked about this previously, right, we've said that people don't want to, people don't want to like take new people, and that's fair enough, and they don't want to take people who haven't got experience. But How do they know? How do they know you have experience? Like, there's no so far in this interaction.
I've explained this like multiple times. Like
they don't know that you're good. I mean, look, I know you are, right? And the guys in the squad do.
Look, I'm wearing Envoy 1 armor. I have people in the squad. They're like, oh yeah, I've done this with him before as tank. And I would tell them my KP.me. All I'm saying, like, I'm not even necessarily super arguing against KP. I think KP is dumb, but I'm not even arguing against KP in this situation. I'm saying the practice of like this sheer impatience where they wouldn't communicate with me. They wouldn't even let me link my KP.me before they kicked me. It was like zero tolerance, right? So I like give people a chance, right? Like give them a shot, right? Look, as nothing to do with me being a streamer. I don't care about people don't know me. I'm not that important. I don't care about that. I'm saying this happens to people all the time. And it's just on NA, this practice is really silly because there's so few people to play with anyway, that when you won't even like let somebody talk and be like, hey, yeah, I know this fight. I'm on an alt account. This person just vouched for me. And then you're just kicked because you didn't ping the KP right away. It's like, whoa, like just slow down a little bit. Let me show you my, like, let's talk.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
Well,
the problem is that the people don't have the KP.me anyway, so they don't believe me. So I'd have to go to my main account anyway. But if they would give me a chance, then sure. But it's just...
There are two superior solutions to this, and there's one on either side. So if your goal is for them to communicate with you and give you a chance, why wouldn't you join and then immediately say, hey, I don't have KP on this account.
I did.
But would you give me a chance? Is that okay?
I do.
They're going to say no and kick you.
Well, did you say, like, would you give me a chance? Is that okay? Because the first time you said, haha, I haven't been asked that in a while.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, what would you say to someone who, like, just says, yeah, you know, they join a group that says experienced, and then they say, I've seen the mechanics, right? I know the fight. Give me a chance, right? Isn't that really annoying? Like, I don't know. If someone did that in regular, like, guys, if I do my weekly CM clear and I say, right, join if you know what you're doing, and then one guy joins and says, hey, man, okay, like, I haven't done it before, but give me a chance. I'm going to go, dude, no, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different situation, right?
That actually is in contradiction with what happened last night, because we had 3 people join Doom CM last night when Diaxon and Izo were on a time crunch to go, and they had clearly never done Doom CM / and/or done Doom at all. And you told them, you said, never do this again. This is toxic. This is bad. Never do this again in any group. And then you said, but I don't care. It's fine. We'll do it anyways. And then we just did it anyways. And they got
I'm fine with it, but other people aren't, right? Like, to me, like, it was doable, right? It's not going to be the end of the world. So, like, I'm fine. But the thing is that this is the problem, and this is the problem that Sneb talked about, and it really is the thing. And this is why I think that we,
people
as the proponents,
listening to me.
But we as the proponents of this, we should be really careful with etiquette, because basically what we're getting at here with all this is that people disrespecting the etiquette, disrespecting the LFG, obliterates people's trust in each other and generates this toxicity. Right? Like, that's what happens here. That is what needs to be destroyed. And that means that all of us need to respect that etiquette, right? And understand the way it works. You know what I mean? And I look, I definitely think they probably shouldn't have kicked you instantly. You know, people should certainly let you explain yourself, right?
All these people don't I'm pretty sure that half these people that are complaining about what I did are on EU. It's different on NA. There are not a lot of people in the LFG. I've raided with I have multiple accounts, so I've raided with a ton of these folks. So people recognize me not because I stream or anything, but because I've raided with them before. Like, you establish relationships through the LFG. So somebody saying, hey, I've actually raided with this guy before is actually really common on NA. Like, it's actually quite common because the community is smaller, right? That's just how it is. Now, the KP, like all of you saying, just like link all your accounts at kp.me. People don't know what kp.me is on NA. Like, half the people don't. So I could link that, but they don't know what that is. I've been kicked after I've linked that because they're like, I have no idea what that means, buddy. So that doesn't solve the problem. They don't know, right? They have no idea.
Do you know the solution to this? Like, seriously, like we could have just nipped this conversation in the bud.
Ooh,
minutes, ages ago. It's that there are people who have decided they're going to make their bed, and you just let them sleep in it, and you make your own LFG that says 10 million Bone Skinner tokens only experienced raiders join now. And then people fill, like really good players will fill that LFG because they're like, this guy's obviously trolling. This is going to be a good group. And you'll have like 3 people that join that are like, is it okay if I'm here? I don't have any KP, I'm new. And you just say, yeah, go ahead. And it's like what happens in a Raw. Like I do a Raw and I post a LFG and in all caps, I'll say path to everyone welcome smiley face. And if I'm not in the mood to take the time to explain the mechanics and guide people through, I literally just solo the whole dungeon and just tell people here are the waypoints, and they come and like they grief Lupicus where he runs out of the wall, but like I'll put him back and I'll just one-shot him anyways. And I just go and solo the dungeon and they get the reward at the end and they're lost and confused, and who cares? Because it just doesn't, like it doesn't, if people want to do that, then just let them do it. Who cares? But you can start a group. You can say, and then just do that.
I know that. This is why I almost never pug. I just make all my own groups and I pull from the guild and I pull from Hardstuck. We go in, people that don't know it, I teach them how to do it and everything's fine. I just find it disappointing because I went in with the intent to help them, right? Because I was like, oh, they need a tank. Like, sure, let's go, right? But it's just such a, like the LFG culture is just wild. Now, yeah, look, I guess I won't pug anymore unless I can. I guess I'll have to like store KP on my alts, which I don't want to do because I don't have the storage space.
Here's the thing. I actually think everyone understands what you're saying. I think they just think it's dumb, and that the problem could have just been resolved by you just not joining the group in the first place and making your own group. I think that's why people are frustrated.
Yeah, okay. Here's the thing, though. If I make my own group, I just pull all my friends. And I'd rather be able to go and help other people that don't have the clears or that are, just in the LFG, because otherwise they sit there forever. Like I empathize with them. I've been in the LFG and on a Sunday and it sucks. It takes forever. So I thought I have the tools here. I'm just going to jump in and help them. I guess my mistake was that I didn't have the KP on my alt account, and they didn't trust people to vouch for me, which respectable. Like they kicked me. It's like it's not the best feeling to get kicked, but like I respect it, right? Like they have every right to kick me because they had the requirements and they didn't believe me. So be it. I just think it's disappointing that they didn't trust the people that were trying to vouch.
Sneb. The problem here is that you're a good person and that you want to help people at all costs. You don't care about the rules. You see someone suffering and you want to go and help them, and you want to just brute force your way into doing it. And that's not how gamer brains work. Gamer brains are anxious. Gamer brains are insecure. Gamer brains are people who have had their trust violated. And they want to maximize their chances, and they think they figured out how to do it.
Oh, come on!
Chat wants me to just like quit the game.
What are we doing?
Come on, guys.
Well, it's because the problem is that the way this is being presented, it comes across as like a little bit. What's the word? It's like a little bit like condescending almost, right? It's like a little.
Why is it condescending?
It's a bit pretentious. Yes. I have bestowed my assistance upon this pathetic Desmina pug group.
No,
how dare they?
There's no one joining their group, and I thought, hey, I can be the one to fill the group so they don't sit here for 30 minutes because it sucks, right? It sucks sitting in the LFG for 30 minutes. So I can go and help. And I thought, okay, like I'm just gonna jump in and help. And like, if that comes off as pretentious and condescending, then why do I even bother at all with like the raid community? Like, seriously? Like, that's just so sad to me. Like, if like my intention is purely to fill a gap that they are looking for, like it's just, come on, people.
Well, I mean, I think it seems to be that the communication wasn't there. The people didn't know who you were, right? So they didn't know you were going to be very reliable.
No, but
they don't know your intent.
People bringing
right?
that up are just trying to attack my character. Like that's stupid. I never went in with the assumption that they know who I am. I never do. The thing, like, and this has happened to me tons of times. Somebody will join, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like this is my buddy. Can he play?" Yeah, right. I join in. Somebody says, "Oh hey, it's Sneb." Like, "Oh yeah, Sneb's good. Don't worry, he can tank." And they're just like, "Nope." Right? Like it has nothing to do with me. Like, look, I'm not important at all. Like, I don't care. I'm not important at all. Nobody knows me. And I don't care about that. Genuinely, that's irrelevant. It's just, look, it just sucks because you try to help and then people think, oh, you're like condescending no, that's not my intention at all.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know that. Like, I know that that's not the intention, but I think that's kind of like the way maybe this stuff kind of comes off sometimes, right? Like people and that's because people aren't mind readers. They don't know your intention. And as you pointed out, people are already very, very sussy, right? People are going to be suspicious of basically everyone who joins, maybe even more so on ArenaNet. You've already pointed out that, the culture's really bad. People like lying about experience, faking kill proof and stuff like that. So like, I think you just got to make sure you don't get your wires crossed here, right? Like with people on the LFG, like you've really got to make sure that we communicate. This seems to be like a really, really good example of somewhere where, individuals in the raid community need to do their best to try and communicate with each other in clear ways and explain the situation. Because otherwise stuff like this happens, right?
Yeah. Like, it's people keep bringing up like the streamer thing. I actually, somebody in the group messaged me after and said, "Do they not know who you are?" And I was like, "Oh, like don't say that. They probably don't. That doesn't matter. Like it's irrelevant. It just sucks." I was just like, it just sucks that and what I said to them was, "It just sucks that I don't have KP on my alt, so I can't get in." Like that's
the solution is just buy another bank tab, right?
And I guess
KP in it.
I guess that's.
See, like,
I don't really feel like doing that for a bunch of accounts.
That's if you really, I could dig into the real world and talk about this with because there's a long history in the real world. You can go buy any history book or watch any YouTube video on historical figures, and you can see people that have tried to honestly just do a good thing, tried to change the world, try to make a positive impact, and then they get killed for it. Like, that's a real thing. Like, I try to go out and help homeless people and just talk to them, and guess what? Nobody gives a shit. People still walk past them on the street and ignore them. And shelters are still for-profit, like, mills where they just take people in and out so people donate to them. It doesn't, like, I try to do a good thing, and nobody cares about it. It's... If you could just comply with them, you could just spend a couple bucks, you could convert gold, you could buy another bank tab, you could just put KP in it, and you could just go into the group still with the motivation of wanting to help. And you could still help them clear the content, but you could just ping KP, and then guess what? Like, you're accomplishing your goal, but you're also complying with the requests for KP at the same time. So everyone wins. Like, you win. You don't have to get booed in TeaTime chat for half an hour. You don't have to get people not understanding the point that you're making or whatever. Like, everyone wins. Like, just do that.
Let's go ahead.
And let's change topics.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up and move to something else. I think I'm going to try and extract some value from that somewhat unusual segment real quick. I think what we can take from that is we need to create a culture in the LFG where players trust each other, where players respect each other. They look at the requirements. They don't post insane requirements, right, for all this stuff. They're willing to give players, maybe a little bit of a chance, particularly if there's other people vouching. And just in general, we must communicate, right? We need to communicate much more on the LFG and in groups, just in general, right? Like when you're playing PvP, talk, who's going to go where? Who's going to rotate where, guys? When you're in a raid, who's doing what role? Can anyone relog to this? All that kind of thing. In the LFG, talk about kill proof. Oh, I've only got 13 kill proof, not 1,000. Is that good enough? I don't know. You tell me, right? Communication is key, and that is what we need. Is that a good summary, do you think, guys?
I just can't believe like all the people that are telling me that I broke the etiquette. I don't even know what to say to you. Just move on.
Okay. All right, one more thing then. We're going to move on right now, guys. But okay, let's see. If Sneb is sussy, please put sussy in the chat. If he isn't sussy, put goose jam in the chat. Let's go. Let's see, put it down to a vote yet again. Okay, democracy. I love democracy, guys. I really do. So, on a more positive note, we also did something else recently with raids, and that was also with Sneb. See, Sneb back at it again. We're staying topical here. Look, there's a lot of goose jams there. I like that. It's good stuff. But keeping it topical, we did some one-handed raids. Okay, we did some raids. Everyone in the group was playing with only one hand. And you know what? It actually maybe was not quite... I was expecting it to actually be harder. This game is too easy.
I was expecting it to be... Well, I was expecting it to be much harder, but at the beginning, I actually found it just kind of annoying. I was like, holy crap, like I can't press my buttons. I feel like I'm not being that productive. Like I was having a hard time at the beginning, and then the time I went action cam was really bad. Ooh, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like action cam, but not being able to like. I was using only mouse, so I was like this and I was like holding my mouse, right? And I was like, wait a second, I actually can't click any skills. So I was just auto attacking with action cam, which was a bit rough. But yeah, I also found it was a lot less intimidating than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to wipe a few more times because like somebody would like mess up the mechanic or not be able to move properly. But I was really surprised that with relative ease, we cleared all of those bosses. And then I know after I had to go that y'all got Doom CM. I thought there's no way you were going to do Doom CM with one hand, but it sounds like you did.
I don't think everyone was playing with one hand, but yeah, I was playing with one hand, yeah. On Doom CM, yeah. So yeah, I was surprised. I will say it really gave me a lot of insight. Like I knew that keyboard turning and skill clicking is a huge disadvantage, but wow, yeah. Like if you have to, if you keyboard turn or skill click, this game isn't just like a little bit harder. It is a lot harder. It is a massive disadvantage. I think the Guild Wars 2, the way that Guild Wars 2 works with like kind of, you have to press kind of a lot of buttons without the GC. There's a lot of button mashing going on a lot of the time. It's really hard to do. It's so difficult to aim skills with skill clicking with like the ground targeted AoEs. Managing movement at the same time as attacking is absolutely fucking horrible, right? With one hand or with skill clicking, it is actually insane. Yeah, it really kind of put things in perspective on like just how difficult it is. And look, again, guys, like this is it was a really interesting experiment in my opinion, because that is actually the way most people play the game. Most people actually keyboard turn in Guild Wars 2, and again, most people click their skills in Guild Wars 2, and it's no wonder that people have a little bit of difficulty getting into some of the more like challenging content, like the high-end fractals, strike missions, and raids, because they're essentially playing on a higher difficulty setting, right? It's so hard to explain this to the Guild Wars 2 community without getting roasted, but there is a correct way to play the game, right? It is better. It is a disadvantage to use skill clicking. It is a disadvantage to keyboard turn, right? And it's very similar to what you're using like a meta build, right? And I think using keyboard turning and skill clicking as analogous to playing a bad build is actually a really good way to explain to players why it's important to go in with a good composition, a good strategy, like a plan for what your group, what your composition does, because it is a very, very obvious and kind of stark difference between keyboard turning and using one hand and being able to use both hands at the same time, or simply just not keyboard turning and skill clicking, because it is way harder, right? And hey, some good information there, but it worked out very well. Yeah, like we were able to get it done fairly effectively. I mean, I said, yeah, wow, it's so much harder, but then we like one shot all the bosses, I guess.
and like, not only did we one-shot all the bosses, though, but, like, Bacon Boy, like, figured out how to do Doom CM, having never done Doom before. And we did it. And we finished it with all 10 people alive, and it was good.
Yeah, it was hype, actually.
He's really good at the game.
He's seriously unironically really good at the game. He's like a god dude. He has a Twitch and a YouTube channel where he streams and uploads video, and I think it's his Twitch says like I am a god gamer, and he's not just like he's actually right when he says that. It's pretty cool.
I think we got
go
ahead.
I just wanted to like I hope he's okay with me saying I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but like it was a long time ago. He messaged me about getting into raids or maybe participating in some raids, and he explained that he had a disability, or that he has a disability rather. And I went, okay, I have a brother who has a disability, and so I'm aware of like the challenges and whatever. So anyway, he was talking to me about it, and he was like, hey, I just want to know if I can do raids or if it's going to be a problem or whatever. And I just said, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. There are probably some things with certain disabilities or whatever, if you have tremors or that, you know, some of the movement might be more difficult, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible or that you can't do it. That just means that you have a different obstacle to overcome. And like he just kills it. Like he does all these fractal CMs. He does tons of raids. I think the only reason that he hasn't done a lot of like 5, 6, 7 is my understanding is probably because it just doesn't have a group on NA, right? But yeah, he really impresses me. He's very articulate. Like he's very intelligent. He's really cool to just talk to. Like I've just spent some time in Discord just chatting with him. Yeah, I'm really impressed by him, not only as a gamer but as a person, right? Like it's really impressive.
Bacon Boy is pumping, man. He got picked less time than Brazil.
Yeah, seriously.
Actually true.
And he didn't have to escape from it either.
Yeah, we did a good job on that Doom CM actually, because we actually had a few people who hadn't done it before actually, which was really cool. It's always fun to get people the CM right, and you know, carrying people's all right, but we actually didn't carry anyone. It was really good. It worked out extremely well. I was very happy. I was a little bit worried going into Doom CM, as I usually am, like, oh, how long am I going to be here for? But we actually killed it in like 5 tries. It was pretty good. We just like made 6 scourges and boom, easy peasy, right?
Yo, is it okay if I link his channel? People are asking.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. He actually streams his gameplay as well on Twitch, and he has a hand cam, so you can see how he actually handles the keyboard and the mouse simultaneously with one hand. So yeah, you can go check that stuff out, guys. Definitely worth having a look there. You can see you'll see some of the VODs on that channel. He streamed last night, so you can go take a look at that. Definitely worth looking at it. And yeah, I'll probably have something on my channel about like the insanity, right, of trying to play with one hand, right? Okay, hey, look, it's a useful skill.
I uploaded all the bosses. I have a video of that. You can see me being.
What else is worth? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you can see me being hell trash at the game, playing with just a mouse. But you know, it is what it is. That's fine. I won't link it.
I think it's just important to note that the experience that we just had highlights a few things. One, anyone can do it. Really, virtually anyone. Right? Anyone can do raids. Even if you have like some disability or whatever, you can overcome it. I think that's really inspiring, right? And I think for me, it actually, and I mentioned this while we were doing it, it gave me a new sense of empathy, because when I had my hand up here, and I like the whole time, everything in my mind and my body was telling me to put my hand on the keyboard, and it was like really. At first, it was really hard, and there were things. Some of the mechanics were like a little bit more challenging and whatnot, and like I thought that was like really cool that I had this experience where I could be like, wow, like I get it. I get what people are going through to some extent. Obviously not perfectly or anything, but like it just illuminated sort of the challenges that some people might go through. I think the other thing that is important to highlight with what we experienced is that there are builds and strategies that allow you to overcome some of these things a little bit easier. So for example, I was really struggling. So I switched to Herald and did like an auto attack only build, and I pumped like 20k at Veil Guardian with auto attack only. And I was like really happy about that. Obviously it's not like the best build in the world or anything, but I was just experimenting. So there are things that you can do if you struggle with rotations, or if maybe it's not physically possible for you to hit these buttons super fast. You can find builds that reduce the mechanical complexity slightly so that you are able to handle things a little bit better. And overall, I just thought it was like a really cool practice. What did y'all think?
Yeah, it to me, it just confirmed that a lot of the work that we should be doing as the community is actually looking at stuff like this, as in kind of like the mechanics before the game even. So how to make playing the game easier, as in like on the very fundamental level. Movement, right? Dodging, moving and attacking at the same time, hotkeys, right? How to set up your character, your interface, right? Like, how to like use your hardware. Like, yeah, the classic example is, right, like everyone who plays a video game ever knows that the space bar jump makes you jump, right? But how do you know that? Well, you know that because you've played other video games, right? You don't, you have prior knowledge that means you kind of apply that to the future, which is what a lot of us have here, right? A lot of us have played video games for a very, very long time. But for players who are coming into a new video game experience, particularly a new MMO, maybe they've never played an MMO before, then they won't understand how some of this necessarily works or why, right? Why skill clicking is bad. They won't know why that's not a good thing. That's the default, right? That's the default. Is to click your skills, right? Or or have like a 0 key, right? No one's fucking pressing that, right? Like all these bizarre keybinds that the game comes with by default. Yeah, I think even double tap to dodge is melee attack assist, right? That I think that the game could definitely use a few default settings updates, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, I think that this is something that we should tackle as a community. I've thought this for a while. That was kind of some of the motivation behind my like ultimate beginner's guide. I have like a 30-minute video explaining all the UI elements, which sounds like a lot of overkill, but I actually think it's a pretty useful video, if I do say so myself. And I think that experiments like this, and it was really, really fun, right, to get in there as well and like, have that bit of extra challenge and just have some fun there with some gamers to get another view of how the content might be presented. Is really helpful for understanding the trials of getting into the game, right? Like regardless, of a disability or not, right? Like there are always going to be challenges. People coming from different levels of knowledge and experience and familiarity with video games and MMOs as a whole.
I was actually working on something like this a really long time ago, and I was working on it with Brobo, where I was basically going through the entire game and teaching Brobo like how the engine works and how everything functions at its core. And I was working on a video about this. It was going to be called like how to master Guild Wars 2 in one video, where it talked about like the complexities and keybinds and movement and all of that stuff, and how like enemy types overlap with each other. And if you know how a jungle worm works, then you know how the jade maw tentacles work, because they're the same thing. They do the same stuff. And I think it was a really cool idea, and I think it would have been really helpful. And then while I was making it and realizing that I had to explain all of this stuff to so many people, and that also people were not going to watch it and that they were going to dislike it and say, haha, Brazil evil, stupid, Brazil sucks, haha, Brazil's a poopy head in the comments. Yeah, I was just like, fuck this, I don't care. I deleted my whole YouTube channel because I got so disillusioned with the project. And so, I don't know, I think it's a valiant effort to want to do stuff like this. And it's something that's tempting me to get back to doing and making a guide, but I think there are a lot of people that think Guild Wars 2 is a casual game. I should be able to do whatever I want. And they take that to the absolute extreme, to where they just absolutely will not listen, no matter how much you're trying to help them or the resources and the content that you create. Because raid boss guides, do people care about raid boss guides? Do people watch them? Did they actually help people? I would say probably no to all of those things. Or they watch them one time and they don't ever go raid, or it's just interesting. It's like, is it worth the investment to explain all of these things? Also, first of all, raid bosses are relatively unique. Like, outside of Veil Guardian being at the end of Bloodstone Fen and the Slothazor thing being in Ember Bay, but raid bosses don't actually function out in the open world where people are going to be playing. If you can solo a veteran giant that poses little threat, you can go out and fight the giants in the like big Heart of Thorns maps that fear you off cliffs and stuff. And when you talked earlier, this may be the most important time to do that, because how they said they're going to make veteran mobs and normal mobs and champion mobs all have different abilities as they grow in threat. That's like the perfect thing, because mobs already do that. That already happens. Veteran mobs and champions will do different things, or they pack more of a threat depending on what they are. But is it worth it? That's a lot of investment to do. That's like probably 200 hours of work if I had to guess how much time it's going to take to put into it. And I don't know.
I would say yes, because I think it's necessary. I mean, I think this is the really big thing that the game needs. There needs to be resources that help players understand the basic mechanics. And when it comes to raid guides, I had a similar thing with a bit of disillusionment about this, because I realized that, making the raid guides was like saying, hey, you, right, start running. And I'm talking to like a 3-year-old baby. I was like, well, I mean, the little guy is not going anywhere fast right now. You can't even walk yet, right? Like, this is kind of the same thing here. Like, I think the raid guide, it loses its value if players don't have the core mechanics to contextualize and understand that raid guide and then put that into practice, right? You can say, oh yeah, don't get hit by the blue circle, right? Go in the green circle or out heal the green circle. But if players don't know how to gear their character, what boons are, what the boons do, how to use dodge rolls, right? How to move around, what reviving is, how to manipulate the down state, right? All that sort of thing. If you don't have that, then the raid guide doesn't mean anything. It's useless to you. You can't use that information in any kind of meaningful way. So I think you got to kind of build up from the ground level. You got to start from the bottom and then you put the stuff at the top, right? And who are those boos who don't know what keybinds are watching a Brazil? Honest question. Well, the thing is, they're just playing the game, right? Guide content's really popular. If you go to my channel, right, and look at the combat guide, it's got like 100k views. Look at my Plague Doctor Scourge guide, 100k views. When Brazil was making build guides, again, 50k, 100k, right? Even more, because Brazil was around before me when the game was kind of really popping, like 200k, 300k views on some of Brazil's build videos. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there is a huge audience, right, of players there. And I get comments on these videos like, oh, could I do this? Could I do that? Right? And their questions. Oh, fuck. Gonna sound toxic here, guys. It's my turn now. There are questions on the video that are very obviously from players who are new and are very unfamiliar with instance content, right? Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, like, absolutely, these videos do reach players. Players do go on the internet, like, even if they aren't like super hardcore mega raiders, right? Yeah, most players, guys, look, if you play PvP, watch people move. They'll backpedal and they'll keyboard turn. Watch them. Go in a raid group. People will backpedal and they'll keyboard turn. Watch them. Okay? Go in the open world. Go to a meta event. Watch people just auto-attacking, right? And just like not really doing anything. Like, yeah, absolutely. A lot of players like who engage in the game with a lot of hours in the game don't necessarily like go big, on the whole, like learning the actual fundamental mechanics of the game. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's such a big problem, and it goes so deep. It just makes me think about a lot of stuff, and because people don't know how good boons are. Boons are busted OP. They are incredibly strong. Boons are stronger than anything else. It's people don't know it. People don't know how good quickness is. People don't know how good alacrity is. People don't know that instead of backpedaling against a mob that's just farming you while you're auto attack, that you can dodge roll through it like a ninja and then just hit it from behind while it figures out how to turn. There's just a lot of little things like that. And I was watching Jebro's stream last night, and he was playing this hilarious Mechanist build where he was overcapped on alacrity. It was more than permanent, to where his cooldowns may have just been like traded to be shorter. And he was playing PvP, and there's this warrior that kept trying to kill him, and he would run up to an edge and the warrior would follow him, and then he would just stop moving and the warrior would like sword leap off the side because he thought Jebro was going to jump down. And it's like, you see that the combat in Guild Wars 2 is very tricky. It's not easy. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that you can master. And there's a lot of depth to the classes. And again, to kind of take it back to dungeons teach you all of that. Dungeons teach you will get hard farmed in dungeons if you don't understand how combat works and you don't understand how blast finishers work. How many raiders, people that just casually raid and do strike missions, like understand what a blast finisher and a combo field is? How many guardians just permanently cleanse all of the necromancer's condi transfers because they just spam their abilities down and hit combos? That happens a lot. I feel like people just don't even get stuff like that. And that was a big selling point to Guild Wars 2, that you would have combo fields and that you could interact with other classes and do all this stuff. And people I feel like they just don't know that.
And yes, we're going to wrap things up very, very quickly here, guys. I don't want to go too deep on this conversation, but yes, these mechanics are important. There is a reason why players get stuck in gold, and toxic. Okay, and there is a reason why people get stuck on raids and can't clear this stuff, right? And aren't able to complete tier 4 fractals, aren't able to complete challenge modes. Yes, and it's because of a lack of understanding of game mechanics. Yes, not knowing, if you don't understand how boons work, you're not going to clear raids. It's just not going to happen. If you don't understand like why keyboard turning is bad, you're never going to be effective in PvP. It's just not going to happen. And so on and so on and so on, right? Like, you know, if you aren't able to understand these mechanics, you're going to have a very, very tough time with actually playing the game. Yeah, sure. The mechanics aren't really that important in open world. And well, look, okay, if I wanted to do another 3-hour podcast, we could bring Snebzor in and he can tell us about how it's terrible that the open world doesn't push the player or the story either, right? But that's not the point here. Point is that, yeah, these mechanics are important, but it is a huge undertaking, and it may well be a futile one, right? You know, like we can only do our best, right, to try and help people understand, and it won't be perfect. There will always be players who have difficulty and don't get the information that you need, but currently there just doesn't. Currently, it's obviously not happening now, so we should probably try and make it a little... Yeah, I've got to save a TeaTime for next week, guys, okay? And I can't keep recycling this over and over again. Look, I've got no more ArenaNet streams until next year at the end of January, so I've got to find something to fill these podcasts with, right? We're going to keep it going weekly, right? You know, we'll have to take a little bit of a break here because we're entering the dead zone. Yes. But... on that note, I want to give Sneb the final word on this because me and Brazil have just been ranting for like 10 minutes flat here before we wrap up there. So, final word on kind of I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. Kind of like guides and new player mechanics and all sorts of bizarre things going on there, and then we can go ahead and wrap up the show.
Yeah, I'm not really even sure what to say. I mean, yeah. One of the issues is that it's hard to do these things because it doesn't really teach you. I've yammered on about that before, so I won't go too in depth. But I do want to just shout out again that event we did yesterday. I think that was really cool. I hope people enjoyed that, and that I hope it gave people a new perspective. One that, hey, like, you can do it, right? Like, you can do it. It's possible. It takes some learning. We have an advantage because we know the mechanics super well and we know the classes pretty well. And so that made it a little bit easier. But even if you don't, you can learn those things and you can accomplish raids. I also hope that it gave people like a newfound empathy for people that do have different disabilities or challenges or whatever that might change the way that they have to engage with the game, and maybe a newfound appreciation for accessibility. But yeah, I was really happy with that. And as always, thanks for having me on twitch.tv/Snebzor and on the Twitters. Snebzor. Yeah.
Boom. Right, let me get the extra host commands going down there. There you go. Enjoy. Thank you for coming on, Sneb. I appreciate that. Brazil. Okay, I think you're going to be streaming later on today. Tell us a little bit about that and what we can expect from your channel and your content going forwards into the future. The vast unknown depths of 2022 and Ender Dragons.
Well, first of all, I have to give a small thank you to Sneb before I show myself. I really appreciate and value doing TeaTime with you because people hate you more than me now, and the comments are a lot easier for me to read. I'm a lot less insecure. but yeah, anyways, serious. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, UWV_Preston. Yeah, I'm going to stream a little bit later today. I'm going to do some dungeon content, and players on NA, you're welcome to join. I either may be leaving you in the dust while I just fly through it, or maybe I'm helping you. It's a surprise. We'll have to see. It's a total surprise. Who knows what we'll get? But yeah, and I honestly, the more we've talked about this at the end, I think I'm going to make new player guides. Unironically, we had Big Nose Ted, but like we need to do that. We can teach people the game. We can help them out. We can get god tier players. We can understand it. So I think go to YouTube. There's the links that are just in chat. Follow me. Give me your money. Buy my art, and I'll teach you how to play the game.
Yeah. And when he says fly through the dungeons, he means that literally as well. So that's a bonus meme. That's something to see for sure. But anyway, thanks for coming on, of course, to both of my wonderful hosts. Once again, extra strong hosts in the chat, guys, to see them. Make sure to click on all their links. Follow them. Links are below in the video as well. And they're on the screen too. Hit them right now. Let's go. Get in there. Of course, if you enjoyed this tea time, make sure to follow. There probably will be a bit of an after show going on, and maybe not the longest one. I'm not going to do like 12-hour stream, but maybe a little bit, a little smidge of an after show here as well to continue going on there. But of course, I will see you around on the next show. Thanks for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow me here. Go watch all the other tea times. It's got to be, 200 tea times at this point or something like that. You can watch every single one. It's like an absolute, the ups and downs of the history of the game, right? We're like the barometer of Guild Wars 2. You can really know how everyone's feeling based on that show for sure. But thank you so much for watching once again. Follow the stream. Subscribe to the stream. Follow all my social media. Come on, let's go. Right, let's get that going, guys, okay? Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, okay? Get over there and watch all the videos. Like the videos. Leave comments, right? I know we joke a little bit around the YouTube comments and how we get trolled by them a little bit, but I really do appreciate all of them. I do like getting into it with, getting into it with you guys in the comments, right? Having some arguments, having some debates. It's fun. It really, really is. And we love it too, even though sometimes, okay, we do get a little baited sometimes for sure. But thanks for watching. Be sure to follow all of the hosts, okay? All of the hosts, guys, okay? There's the button there once again. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. From all of us, have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next time. Cheers, guys. See you later.